ICENET. Dynasties live here.
Live on CBC, Hockey Night in Canada, brought to you by Molson, Canada's name in beer since 1786, brewers of Molson Export Ale. Canadian General Electric, progress for people since 1882. Canadian Tire Dealers with 320 stores to serve you across Canada. And by the Ford Motor Company of Canada, on behalf of your Ford and Mercury dealers from coast to coast. Let the Stanley Cup final begin between the New York Islanders and the Philadelphia Flyers. The scene is the Philadelphia Spectrum, which has housed two previous Stanley Cup winners. Flyer fans want to refresh their memories of those triumphs in 74 and 75 with another one to begin the 1980s. The Flyers reached this final round by beating Edmonton, the New York Rangers, and the Minnesota North Stars in a 5-game semifinal. Game number 5 saw the Flyers win 7-3. The winning goal, the fourth one by defenseman Bob Daly, who has been a standout throughout these playoffs for the Flyers. The New York Islanders get their first taste of competition in the Stanley Cup Final. And they got here by defeating the Los Angeles Kings, the Boston Bruins, and the Buffalo Sabres in a 6-game series, which saw the New York Islanders win the first 3. The Sabres mounted a comeback and took 2 victories. But then in Game 6 on home ice, the Islanders, after trailing 2-0, came back to win a missed goal by defenseman Bob Lorimer. It made the score 3-2, and the Islanders went on to win 5-2 and give their fans reason to celebrate. And tonight, the Philadelphia fans are the home fans for Game 1 of the final between the Islanders and the Flyers. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Hodge on behalf of Hockey Night in Canada and the Hughes Television Network in the United States. Welcome to Philadelphia, still the city of brotherly love. Used to be the city of losers, but in the next 2 weeks, Philadelphia will try to emulate Pittsburgh as Titletown, USA. Pittsburgh has the Steelers and the Pirates, of course. Philadelphia has the 76ers going for the NBA championship. And tonight, the Flyers take aim at the Stanley Cup. After it's all over, the state of Pennsylvania could, in fact, have all 4 major pro sports champions, title state USA, if you will. Now, color commentator Dick Irvin finds an interesting place to interview his cohort, Gary Dornhofer, who knows all about Stanley Cups and Philadelphia.
Outside the Spectrum here in Philadelphia, there's a statue. They call it Score. It was copied from a photograph of Gary Dornhofer of the Philadelphia Flyers scoring an overtime goal against the Minnesota North Stars in 1973. Well, from Gary Dornhofer in bronze to Gary Dornhofer in person. He's our analyst tonight. Gary, they talk about a rough series, the Flyers and the Islanders. How do you feel?
Well, first of all, Dick, I think throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs, we've seen some exciting hockey, not only from a skating standpoint, but also the goals that were scored and checking. And tonight, you have the Islanders, very physical team, and the Flyers. They've played that way throughout their career, strong along the boards and in the corners. And any time that you have that good checking and that good hitting, it could lead to some fisticuffs, and it may happen in that first game to try to establish superiority as far as the body contact is concerned.
So far in this playoff year, home ice has not meant all that much of an advantage. Any change here in the final?
I don't think so. I think the teams know that they've only have to win 4 more games to get that Stanley Cup, and it makes no difference whether it's on the other team's ice. So they'll go out there and work as hard as they can to try to achieve that goal.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much. And now, let's go back to Dave Hodge.
Quickly, we go to our power play team of play-by-play announcers, Bob Cole and Dan Kelly.
Even more so than the regular season, when you get in the Stanley Cup playoffs, line matchups and player matchups become very important when you play a 7-game series. What are your thoughts there, Bob?
You know, Dan, for Pat Quinn of the Flyers, it's going to be an impossible task, just about. We know from the semifinal series against Buffalo, Al Arbour and the Islanders had 18 line combinations, so that kind of is impossible to match line for line. However, I think they'll have to key on Islanders like Dennis Potvin, throw it into him and bump him early and try to eliminate him. And Brian Trottier is ready to break out big. They're going to watch him.
And Mel Bridgman has had that assignment usually in previous series, so I would expect it will be Bridgman out head-on against Trottier.
Playing the best hockey of his career, they tell me, and you're dead on. I think he'll be there.
You want to get an interesting physical matchup. Paul Holmgren of the Flyers mixes things up. The Islanders have a big left winger by the name of Clark Gillies. I would think those two will be head-on against each other, and something's liable to happen.
I'll tell you, it'll be physical. One thing for sure, these two teams are big, tough, strong. This is going to be a physical series.
Our Stanley Cup playoff coverage will continue in just a moment.
Flyers get set to play for the Stanley Cup. There are reasons to think the Flyers should be favored. There are reasons to think neither team should be favored. After all, the Flyers were the regular season champions, holders of a pro sports record, 35 games without a loss. The New York Islanders had a rough start and finished 5th in the overall standings. 116 points for the Flyers. The Islanders had 25 fewer points. Perhaps that doesn't mean a thing now. During the regular season, the teams were dead even in 4 meetings. The Flyers won the first 2, the Islanders the next 2. All 4 games were decided by 5-2 scores, so the goals were even, a slight edge in shots on goal through those 4 games for the Philadelphia Flyers. Each team won a game in the other's building, which might mean that home ice advantage is non-existent in this final. One surprise as far as the lineup is concerned tonight, Pete Peters will start in goal for Philadelphia, not Phil Meir, who finished up the Minnesota series. And a piece of news from the NHL, Al McAdam of the Minnesota North Stars has been named winner of the Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy, the first North Star to win the award, named for the late Minnesota North Star player Bill Masterton. Now to the booth, Dick Urban, Gary Dornhofer, Bob Cole.
Thank you, Dave. And as we get set up here, first off, the national anthem.
What so proudly we hailed as the twilight was gleaming, whose was right and right ours through the perilous fight. All the ramparts we won were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare of a bursting in air gave through the night that our flag was still there. All save us that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
And so the stage is set for Game 1 in this Stanley Cup final round between the homestanding Philadelphia Flyers, the New York Islanders. The players were introduced individually. The Islanders met with almost deafening silence as they skated out. And, of course, the Flyers were met with tremendous cheers. And before the game begins, there is going to be a ceremonial face-off, and I think we are going to get another rather large cheer as well. My name is Dick Urban. I'm here with Bob Cole, who will call the first half of tonight's game. The play-by-play, Gary Dornhofer, the former Flyer. And, Gary, they are going to introduce Bernie Perron, who is going to drop the puck to officially begin this 1980 Stanley Cup Final Series. And you can reminisce just a bit, I'm sure, about how much he meant for the 2 teams you were on, the Stanley Cup winners in 74 and 75.
Dick, when you look at these 2 teams, besides everybody in the building and
we up here know that it's going to be physical, but when you get right down to it, the key person will be the goaltenders. Bernie Perrant certainly played a key role in the 2 Stanley Cups that the Flyers won. Time and time again, he was so instrumental in making that big save when it really counted. And it's unfortunate that his career had to end the way it did, but he is certainly a big hit right in Philadelphia.
Now here we have it, a standing ovation for one of the greatest goaltenders hockey ever saw. And it's just like old times, Gary. Bernie, Bernie, they're chanting.
With that little tint of gray.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. Well, there he goes. Bob Cole, the only man ever to win the Conn Smythe Trophy, is the MVP of the playoffs, back-to-back. He won them in both of those years we spoke of, 74 and 75.
7 great seasons with Philadelphia here, Dick. Here are the officials for tonight's game. Andy Van Hellemond is the referee tonight. And the 2 linesmen. Here's one, John D'Amico, the veteran, and another veteran is Ray Scapanello. Now the netminders tonight in this first game of the Stanley Cup Final. That's Billy Smith. 2.34 goals against. Billy Smith of the Islanders. And the 22-year-old Pete Peters, who had such a great year, goals against 209. But Gary Dornhofer, I want to ask you, he's a young fellow playing in his first Stanley Cup Final. He must be nervous.
Well, first of all, Bob, he hasn't played since that 6-5 Minnesota win over the Flyers, so that's over 2 weeks ago. Surprise starter, Coach Quinn said the reason he got the start is the way he worked in practice, and you wonder how Phil Muir is feeling at this time, because he certainly had a heck of a series against the North Stars. But in any event, he's there. I'm sure the Islanders want to test him right away.
Well, we're about set to go. The Stanley Cup 98-80 is just down the road for one of these teams, the Philadelphia Flyers against the New York Islanders. The puck is dropped in. Back on the line. McElhargy to the other side, and the speedster, Linsman, shoots it into the New York zone. That's Bob Lorimer up on the boards. It pops out to center ice. Flyers will go in for checking now. That's Klopp going in. Play is called after the line on the offside.
Well, Coach Arbour said, we'll play the way the Flyers want to. You know, when we played Boston, they were physical and we won. We played Buffalo, a skating series, we won that one. Against Philadelphia, we'll try to combine both.
Mel Bridgman comes to center ice for Philadelphia. Hill and Gorance on the wings. They get the draw, but it goes inside the New York line. Cleared to Stephen Pearson, coming out, hitting the line to center ice. Here's a long shot, the first one on the net, and Peters grabbed it and threw it off to the right side. Big Daly up on the wing. Here they come. Gorance going down across the line, dropping it back. And the Islanders' Bob Bourne swings away to center. He was bumped by Daly, but cleared it in back of the net, and Peters holding it there for a moment. It comes to Bourne. Bourne digs back of the goal, taken in on the boards and out of the plate, comes right in front of the net, and Hill will clear it now for Philadelphia. Just gets it across the line. Bossy knocks it back in. Daly, a long pass goes astray at center ice. Now the New York Islanders, back of it to the far side. A minute gone in the first period. There is no score. Here's a long shot from center, tipped away from the net by Daly. Back to the net. DuPont. He left it for Barber. Barber's pass to the line, and Bobby Clark dropping it right back for Daly again. Daly from center, the long shot. Billy Smith has not made a save yet, hasn't had to. Now Barber in the corner, cleared it to Clark. Clark on the other side, looks back toward the line. Here's the second shot, knifed away by Billy Smith. Now the Islanders now will bring it out. Nystrom comes to the line at center and is passed out by Bobby Clark, who got back quickly. A minute and 40 seconds gone to the first period, no score. It's cleared in by Morrow. Back of the net. Here's Nystrom intercepting. Nystrom fed it in back to the net. Antonelli rolling after it was stopped by Clark, but they keep it inside the line. Eric shot stopped by Peters, and the goaltender will hang on for a faceoff. From the Spectrum in Philadelphia, this is Stanley Cup 80.
There in this first period, scoreless first period. for Flyers coach Pat Quinn, his first experience of any kind, player or coach, in a Stanley Cup final round.
Scoring for the New York Islanders with Gillies and Sutter. From the draw, the Flyers have it back in the net. McElhargy waiting there, starting off on the right side. Now Wilson's pass at the line was stopped. He gets it again for McElhargy on the boards to center. The Islanders checking well now. Goring intercepting and shooting it back in. Here's Ben Wilson. Look out for Sutter. Wilson had to get rid of it up along the left side. They cleared to center ice. Drop couldn't reach it. And now here's Lindsman going in. Lindsman, a nice pass. Holmgren and his pass went by in front of the net to the other side. Wilson pushed one into the corner. Here's Lindsman after it. Centering it. Backhand shot. And that was wide of the short side. McElhargy trying to keep it in. Sutter trying to move it out. And Sutter succeeds. He went flying. They go straight on. They're nearing the 3-minute mark of the first period, and there is no score. New York Islanders and the Philadelphia Flyers. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup final here in Philadelphia. Scoring now, having some difficulty. So far, he lost it. Scoring upended. Got back on his feet and cleared back to the line. And Dennis Potvin will take the shot. That's the stick save by Peters. He made that look easy. A low shot by Potvin. And now Pop coming back across center. He threw it in on the left wing. Here comes Bridgman. He's bumped with his man, and Bob Bourne got away from Daly. Bossy, a pass into the center ice area. Bridgman comes right back in. Bridgman at the line. Up there offside. Daly was trapped inside.
Well, there's Denny Potvin, number 5, the bearded captain of the Islanders. Gary, there's no doubt that the New York team is to win this series. Denny Potvin has to play the way Denny Potvin can for him.
You notice as the series go on how he will control the puck out there. Very rarely does he give it away. He's like the quarterback there directing traffic, and you watch him on the power play. That's where his role really becomes important.
Here's Lawrence with a shot. That was deflected up high on the glass, and it's cleared. Back near the line, DuPont let it go, and that's nowhere near the net. Daly from the other side. Flipped one in, and Billy Smith grabbed it. Threw it back to the net. Now the Islanders are having some difficulty against the forechecking Philadelphia Flyers, and they're really belting now. Tonight, Stanley Cup playoff game is coming to you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Bob Cole along with Dick Irvin and Gary Dornhofer for this first game of the Stanley Cup final, nearing the 4-minute mark of the first period, and there's no score. Bridgman for Philadelphia, getting the draw, gets it back quickly, but Gorin couldn't move it. Now here's Bourne, down to the line, he was stopped. They go across the line and they're offside at the Philadelphia line.
Well, there is Moose DuPont. He is a veteran playoff performer. Tonight, his 114th playoff game.
Now, Moose is one of the 6 remaining from those Stanley Cup years, and you talk about a team, man. That's DuPont.
From the draw, Bourne gets it back. The center is cleared in, and Daly has lots of time, but here comes Buttier. He bumped with him. Up along the boards, Philadelphia coming out. Hill gets to center, takes a long shot in off the boards. The rebound comes right back in front, and it's cleared back to the net harmlessly. Bossy pushed one over at the far side for Langevin. He gets it up on the left wing, and Bourne's pass to Bossy at center. Bossy had some trouble, had to move back with it. And now Bourne, a long rising shot, and Peters gloved that away. Orange comes back out with Kelly, who's out for the first time. There he goes. He usually stirs things up. Kelly in the corner for Philadelphia. Langevin fell down against Kelly's checking. McLeish gets set to make a play. McLeish from the corner to Kelly back to the net. But he stopped this time. Langevin, look out! There's something in the corner over there. And Kelly really has got the crowd going now. Back for New York. Coming in on the wing, Canelli. He left to near the line. And Philadelphia back to cover up. Here's McLeish. He's starting away. He's hit hard and that's flying. And the shot by Kelly, a weak one wide. And Billy Smith just cleared it back of the net for Lane. And he got away from Kelly, who was coming in quickly. Now Bob Nystrom up across the line going in. Nystrom was bumped and put on stride. And the Philadelphia Flyers come right back out. It's cleared into the zone. Smith out of the net, shooting it to the corner, and Merrick left it there. Now Merrick didn't see that long pass go down the ice, and Bobby Clark has it at his own line, up through the middle. Goes to
Leach, he just shoots it in. And wide of the net. Lane for New York coming out. Up to the 6-minute mark now in this first period. There's no score. And it's over the boards at the Philadelphia bench.
Well, not much in the way of scoring chances so far. Flyers have just one shot on goal. The Islanders have 4, but there have been a few rather interesting collisions, Gary.
Well, that's what we had talked about, the hits, and it's not goon hockey. What it is just eliminating the man from the play, making contact, not allowing that play back. Here's a good hit by Nystrom on McLeish coming up. McLeish will come into the play. There, both of them go down. That's good contact.
Now back to the live action, and it's cleared down the ice in the Philadelphia zone. That's icing called against the New York Islanders.
Now, number 3, Ben Wilson. We'll have a feature on Ben during one of our intermissions tonight on our show. His second season, former Kingston, Ontario junior. And he didn't play that much, Gary, at times during the playoffs. People here in Philly say he was having his problems.
Well, they've been really on him. You know, he has multi-talent. Everything he does well. If he has one fault, he'll overhandle that puck. Try to beat one more man, and he gets himself in a lot of trouble because of this.
Philadelphia with Bobby Clark, Arbour, and Leach. McElhargy onto the fence, along with Ben Wilson. There's Bobby Clark, the leader of this team through 2 Stanley Cups, and looking for number 3 starting tonight. The Islanders, of course, have other ideas. It comes back near the line and kept in by Wilson. Now Clark. He threw it into the corner, and back of the net, it's Potvin feeding a pass up on the left wing, and Wilson stops it again. McElhargy didn't go quickly down the alley, and Howard bumped together. Now Howard going in after McElhargy. It's cleared at the line. Wilson up for Barber. Here comes Leach in on the wing, and Potvin got there first, and the Islanders in control in their own zone. Here's Butch Goring hitting center ice. Goring's long shot up high and missing the net by a couple of feet. Clark took his man in on the boards. At the line, it's stopped. Long shot by Lorimer, and that's blocked. Wilson trying to get it out of his own zone. Barber just tipped it out across the line to center ice. They're at the 7-minute mark of the first period. There is no score, and the Islanders are offside. This is Stanley Cup 80 from the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Team's 1 second short of a 7-minute mark in this scoreless first period. Tom Gorance, native of St. Paul, Minnesota. On the right side, right here for the Flyers.
Richmond gets the draw for Philadelphia, but now Pearson just cleared it to center. Dupont got it by board, back into the zone, and now it's icing called against Philadelphia Flyers.
Now Stefan Pearson, the former Swedish national team player, in his 3rd season. Gary, when he first arrived, he set a rookie record in the NHL for assists for a defenseman in his first season. He's played a lot lately, more so this season other than last year's second year.
Well, he becomes so effective, especially on that power play, and believe me, the Flyers are aware of what he and Potvin do back in that defense. But you know, so far tonight, the Islanders have had a relatively easy time coming out of their zone. What they're doing, as soon as they get possession, they're throwing that puck along the boards, and the wingers there waiting for it. The Flyers really aren't challenging along the boards. They're having an easy time getting out. They're going to have to make some kind of adjustment.
Bossy with Merrick and Bob Bourne now. A new combination up front for the Islanders. You'll see many for this team tonight. Al Arbour just moving everybody around. And Philadelphia's Jimmy Watson. It went by his stick up along the boards. It's kept in. Bossy coming in close. He can't pick it up. And Watson will now move it ahead. And here's Pop coming to center. Linzman looking for the pass. It was blocked by Pearson and cleared back into the center ice area. Holmgren, he couldn't get it over to Linzman. Back for the Islanders. In on the wing lines of it, pass to Bourne around the net. Bourne centered it. Waiting for the Bossy. And he took the backhander, and Peters covered on that short side. We're coming up to the 8-minute mark of the opening period. There is no score in this game. Here's Linzman feeding in. It hit his skates. Merrick got in the way. A long shot then was just off the mark. And now Nystrom comes right back down the right side for New York. The shot was right on Peters. And Pete Peters hangs on for a face-off.
Well, Peters tested by Nystrom, but I don't think he was really tested, Gary, by Bossy, who came in and seemed to want to make a lot of moves going to the backhand.
Well, that was the first good scoring chance of the hockey game tonight, as Bossy in all alone, and I think the puck just ended up going off the end of his stick. You'll see the penetration here by Bourne. He's dangerous every time he touches the puck because of his speed. All right, there's Bossy all alone. He tries for the shift to the backhand, perhaps that hook stick. But anyway, it slid off into the corner, and it really wasn't a save for Pete Peters.
They played 8 minutes and 5 seconds of this first period. Here it is, no score. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Second game, of course, here on Thursday night. Then it shifts to Long Island. Ready for the draw to the left of Peters. It's dropped in, and the Flyers will clear it. Up as far as the line anyway. They get it to center. Kelly shoots it into the zone. McLeish going in looking for it against Lane. Lane stops to get away from McLeish. Shoots it this way. Now Nystrom couldn't get it by Dupont. Pache lost it. Kelly gets second. He ran on it. And it's cleared back to the line, and the Islanders come to center ice. Down on that far side, it's Tonelli cutting in with the pass for Cloutier. And there's the save by Peters. Nearly went through his legs, but he jammed him and held on. With a score, the New York Islanders nothing, Philadelphia nothing. This is Stanley Cup 80.
Wrong micron.
Play just underway, and it's cleared to the center ice area by the Flyers. Dupont again, and his own line home by Nystrom. Here's Daly getting away. A pass to Kelly. Kelly cutting in on that right wing, dropped it back for Daly. Sharp angle shot, and Billy Smith stopped that. In back of the net, Gord Lane tied up on the play. Now he gets free from Bridgman. Throw it ahead. Trottier gets it off the boards to center, and here's Kelly again as the Flyers change. Here's Gord Lane coming out of the zone. Lane hitting the blue line, going to center, beats a pass into the wing. Trottier couldn't go through, and here's Clark starting back. He fell, got his balance back again, and shoots it in off the boards. But Leach was offside.
Could have penalties called here. I don't know what the story was. Seemed to be away from the play, perhaps. But Ben Wilson is being convoyed over to the penalty box by linesman D'Amico. And for the Islanders, they put number 12 up, Dwayne Sutter. There they are. So first penalties of the final series, and the teams will play 5 aside.
Well, that's normally the way things work out. A double minor to start, so the team doesn't have to play shorthanded. There's Ben Wilson.
2 minutes on the point. Ben Wilson Flyers 2 minutes high sticking.
So an elbow by Sutter, high sticking the call against Wilson as the sophomore defenseman sits this out. Gary Dornhofer knows exactly where Ben Wilson is, ladies and gentlemen, in his days here in Philadelphia. Gary, I counted them up today as a Flyer, 1,291 minutes in penalties, most of which I'm sure were totally undeserved in your
Very
opinion.
misleading, Mr. Irwin.
Statistics don't lie, Gary. Nearing the halfway mark of the first period. They're 5 aside now. There is no score in this game. Clark into the big circle against Goring. Clark got the draw as he usually does. Long shot on the side was cleared away by Smith easily. Now the Islanders trying to move it out. Bourne just fed it back, and Lorimer left it back of the net. Now Potvin back for Lorimer. Here he comes for Potvin, hitting the line at center. Potvin coming in. He looks dangerous on this rush, but now he loses it as he crosses the line. Gillies gets back, though, and shoots it in wide of the Philadelphia net. And the Flyers have to come back to regroup. Now they just line up. Watson comes to this side. The pass goes ahead to Clark, though. It's dropped back in again. Osnick comes down the right side, hitting the line, shoots it in off the boards, back of the net. And Lorimer takes over it again for New York. Went down, a scramble, Gordon, goal. And it is goal. Philadelphia taking the lead 1-0. Oh, what a turn of events. It looked harmless, but there it is, 1-0.
Well, harmless is right, Bob Cole. Van Helleman just stood there. The puck seemed to have disappeared. Everything seemed to have come to a halt. Suddenly there it was, out from under Billy Smith and slowly over the line. 1-0 Flyers. Oh.
Well, let's watch it, see if we can keep what's come through. Actually, Potvin is trying to shove the puck under Billy Smith, and he puts it right by him into his own net.
Bridgman gets credit for it, Gary, for this play here. He was the last one to touch it.
Well, there was a collision behind the net, a little mix-up. Where is it? Where is it? There it comes right through.
Well, a very strange one. Indeed. Bridgman, an unassisted goal, and the Flyers have a 1-0 lead.
And it comes at 10:31 of this first period. Kind of a break goal for Philadelphia. It just rolled across the goal line. 1-0 Flyers. Now here's DuPont coming in for Holmgren. Back to the line it goes and out over into the center ice area. That's Daly for DuPont. DuPont hopping across center, backhands it ahead for Linsman. It was stopped, and Morrow will bring it back for New York. Morrow going around the defense with a shot. That's kicked down by Peters, and let me tell you, he looked very cool making that save.
Morrow looked pretty cool moving in the right side with a good move by the U.S. Olympic defenseman who was on the gold medal team in Lake Placid. Peters has been tested, Gary. That's the 7th shot the Islanders have had. They've had by far the better chances, if you will.
Well, he came out there to challenge and just take the angle away, but Morrow, Al Arbour would like to get him involved more in the offensive flow because he certainly can handle the puck, and you saw in that last play the good shift he had.
28 seconds left in the penalties. There's the shot by Morrow, and that's wide. Lane on the other side, keeping it in for New York. Philadelphia leading 1-0 with 8:40 left of this opening period. Al Hill knocked one down for McLean. She tried to go in. Sidestep one man and another, and then fell. And Ken Morrow flips it down to center ice. Coming in is Hill with Daly catching up. Lane and Daly bump together. The penalties are over. They're at full strength again now. With 8:20 left in the opening period, 1-0 Philadelphia, and Merrick trying to do something about it. He was bumped lightly, and there's going to be a penalty to the Philadelphia Flyers on that play.
Daly for tripping.
Stanley Cup 80 will continue in a moment.
Daly off for tripping at 11:51. And sometimes, Gary, as we look at why Daly is off right here, the way these teams score shorthanded goals, I don't know. It's a question of who's the more dangerous.
Trottier coming in close. A scramble for it, and Trottier centers it right to Bossy.
Oh.
He's shot up down the rebound. Bossy again. He scores. Bossy staying with it. He had 3 or 4 opportunities, and that's a power play goal, and it's tied 1-1.
11 seconds after the start of the power play, Gary, they had 3 shots in 11 seconds. Bossy put it in.
Well, how many chances do you give a guy? You know, that's been the Flyers' success. They always cover up, take the puck away, and look at Bossy. 1, 2, 3. Finally went in. Ben Wilson just not able to move him out of there.
Bridgman had the chance to clear it. The first time, watch Bridgman. If we show it here, he swung at the puck and missed it. That gave Bossy the chance for the first shot. Second shot in at number 3. Tie game, 1-1.
Now Philadelphia's Daly shooting it in. The Flyers pour in after it. They hold it along the boards. And they get a whistle for a face-off in the New York zone.
Well, if anybody's going to open the scoring for the Islanders in the final, maybe it should be Mike Bossy. 3 seasons, 173 goals. Just an amazing scoring machine, this young man.
Well, the Islanders certainly need him to go. They need the goals from Bossy.
Bob Cole along with Dick Irvin, Gary Dornhofer, and Dan Kelly at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, where we're in the first period. 7:47 left, and it's tied at 1. From the draw, it comes near the line. Pearson takes it back of the net for New York. Looks down the ice, threw it up for Bourne, hitting the line at center. Bourne got away from Daly but lost control, and here's DuPont, feeds it in for Al Hill, and went by him, in back of the net. DuPont broke his stick, racing over to the bench for the new one. He's back in play now with Daly giving it to him. Here's DuPont from center, shoots one in on the right wing, and Langevin will take over for New York, going back of the net. Into the corner for Bourne, and he was bumped over there, and they get another whistle for a face-off in the New York Islanders zone.
I think we have quite a battle going here with Bridgman and Trottier. The Flyers felt that the key to the Islanders were Trottier at center ice, Potvin back on defense. So Bridgman has the job of following Trottier along, and he's been chasing him all over the ice.
Like me in my shadow. Trottier drew the assist on Bossy's power play goal. Came at 12:02. after the goal by Bridgman unassisted at 10:31, and given the Flyers the 1-0 lead.
There's Bobby Clark, the assistant coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, captain of 2 cup teams here. What a warrior this young man is. He's into the big face-off circle to the left of Billy Smith for Philadelphia against Merrick of New York. 7:14 left of the first period. Score tied at 1. And the Islanders with the draw. They'll try to clear it from there, from the corner. Morrow has to shoot it back of the net again. Now the pass by Elaine goes up to the line, and Merrick gets across center with Nystrom. It's in wide of the net. Peters stopped it there. And the Flyers just play it up on the wing. Clark has to stop to get away from a check. Now down to this left wing. It's cleared back in for Barber. He's upended, went blind. The play goes right on. The fans calling for a penalty. Barber just fell. And now back for Tonelli, coming in for New York. Tonelli centered it, and Nystrom was covered by Bobby Clark, who came all the way back with him. Now Barber again over center. Up over the line is Barber. Barber trying to cut in. He was stopped by Morrow, and it's grabbed by Potvin. Merrick played it up to Nystrom at center. Here's Nystrom getting set from the line. The shot is stopped by Peters. And the Philadelphia Flyers shoot it down the ice. Icing will be called with Lorimer back. Live from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Scoring, Gillies and Sutter up front. Lorimer and Potvin, the 2 defensemen. The face-off to the left of Peters. 6:12 left of the first period. Score tied at 1. They don't line up squarely. The linesman just waiting. Now Linsman for Philadelphia is ordered out. Goring remains in. Holmgren comes in for Philadelphia. Scapinello pushing it back. Now he'll drop it in. It comes right to Sutter, and his shot deflected wide. Islanders have outshot Philadelphia 11-4 to this point in the game, but it's tied on the score. 1-1. Lorimer coming back in a hurry. He tipped it into the corner, trying to move it out for New York. And now Sutter gets to the line. His pass grabbed at center ice. It's tipped back in. Ryan Propp went in after it, and Holmgren in to help him. Here's Propp setting it up for Linsman. That didn't work. Linsman goes over. Now he has it. Gets it back to the line. Wilson's shot. That's nowhere near the net. Holmgren centered it. Look out. There's a drive. Right on. And Billy Smith covering on the angle. Stopped that shot by McIlhargey.
Well, McIlhargey hasn't played much. I think he's been inserted in the lineup for a little toughness behind the blue line. Billy Smith really had an easy time of that. There was nobody in front of him. Something uncharacteristic for the Flyers. Holmgren was trying to get in there, but he was blocked off. Interesting matchup out in that shift. Kenny Linsman, Butch Goring. That's a big job for Goring to try to contain Kenny Linsman, and also the 2 big guys, and Clark Gillies and Paul Holmgren.
Gary Linsman, the fastest in the league.
There's no question about that, Mr. Cole. He is by far.
5:33 left of the first period. Score tied at 1. That's Holmgren, number 17, against Trache. Out goes Holmgren. John D'Amico's the linesman.
Get somebody against Holmgren along the boards.
Here it comes, right off the boards, back to the line, and Dupont's shot, a weak one, was wide. Langevin for New York. A long pass, didn't get through, but now the Islanders, Bob Bourne coming in with Bossy. Here's Bourne, dangerous. Got a pass back to Bossy. His shot right on, and Bourne with the rebound. And Peters making a good save. And hooks that backhander away.
Couple of things here. An absolutely amazing shot, Gary, by Mike Bossy on the turnaround from well out. Shows you why he's such a sniper. And young Peters has stood up very well.
Well, that shows you the tremendous balance. But there's the backhand coming up that Peters juggles and grabs. But, you know, the shots have been 13-5 in favor of the Islanders. And this young man, had it not been for him, we could have the Islanders leading at this stage.
But it's tied at 1 with 5:14 left in the first period. I'm Bob Cole along with Dick Irvin, Gary Dornhofer. Here's Bob Bourne back to the line. Langevin's shot didn't get through. And it's tipped to center ice. Pearson on the boards. Hill was stopped. New York in possession again. Trache just played it back in his own zone. Pearson back for it.
back of the net into the corner on the other side for Langevin. They try to move it out, but the Flyers stay on top of it and keep it in. Now at the line, there's DuPont's shot, and Smith made that look easy, and Bourne gets away again, down the left wing, away from Gorance, shoots one in and stopped by Peters easily. Daly, as the Islanders are changing, up to center is DuPont shooting it in, and now the Flyers go for a quick change with 4.5 minutes left of the first period. There's Gorance again, he's on it quickly. He whipped it back to the net. Now the New York Islanders trying to clear it. Morrow got it across the line, and here's Nystrom coming in. Nystrom gets ready, can't get a shot away, he fell. On the other side, it's Gord Lane playing it up back of the Philadelphia net. McLeish threw it over for Kelly, and it slides down in the New York zone. That's Howard, number 8. On the far side for Bourne, and it stopped near the line. Busnick trying to move it across in front of the net, he did. And here's Jimmy Watson up for Kelly. He tipped it in on the wing. Holmgren driving for the net right in. And nobody could pick it up. Now Watson from the blue line kept it in. That's Jimmy Watson back of the net with it. Watson looked right in perfectly. And on that backhand attempt, it's chopped away by Nystrom but not out. And finally now cleared down the ice. That's Kelly back. Islanders changing again. 3.5 minutes left in the first period. Score tied. 1-1. This is Potvin. Good move at the line. Hitting center ice. Got away from Leach. But Ben Wilson takes over, spins around near his own line, and gives it to Kelly. He's up with him now. Wilson going in. Good moves by Wilson, but he can't get his shot away. There's Kelly looking for it again. Kelly back at the net again. Henning. Henning has it for New York. Leach took him in on the board. And now Kelly again. Kelly had it knocked off his stick by Potvin. Kept in by McLeish. Michael Harvey. Kelly. And it's back by Billy Smith. Don't know how he saw it, but he got his glove down. This Stanley Cup playoff game is coming to you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Seconds left in this opening period. I'm Bob Cole, Dick Irvin, Gary Dornhofer, Dan Kelly along with us up here in the broadcast booth at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Our heart and soul, Bobby Clark.
Pretty good side.
And there he is. Live action. Here's Clark getting set, drops it over for Barber. Barber couldn't get through. And Butch Goring had him covered and shoots it down the ice. Coming back quickly, Jack McElhargy. Coming up on the left side to Barber. Barber starting off slowly, put it over on an open wing. Leach had left that spot over there. 2.5 minutes left in the first period. Lorimer's pass to Sutter. Hitting center, he shoots it in for New York. That's Ben Wilson back there. Gets away from Gillies. And Wilson pass on the wing. That's Clark engineering the move over the wing for Leach. Going in back of the net. Leach centered it. And Barber was covered by Lorimer. Here he is for Sutter. Sutter starting out. The pass at center, and Gillies shoots it in. And the Islanders are again changing with 2 minutes left in the period. Langevin at his own blue line. Pearson. An easy pass ahead for Merrick. Starts him away. That's Merrick in on the wing with Tonelli. Tonelli gets it back in front. There's a shot from a difficult angle. And it's cleared as Bossy let it go quickly. Now back up to center ice. Gorance coming in. That's Gorance with a slap shot. And Smith had it go off his glove over the glass.
Gary, except for a couple of isolated instances, the Flyers have not done to the Islanders tonight what they did to Minnesota, namely stay on top of them. I think the Islanders have been skating rather freely and throwing the puck around pretty well.
Yes, they are, Dick, and you know what becomes so very important is the Islanders are moving that puck with a lot of crispness out there. They're giving good, hard passes so it can't be intercepted, moving the puck ahead and always on the go. So the Flyers will certainly have to change a little bit and not let the Islanders skate the way they are. Get in front of them, just interfere with them slightly, and give their defense a chance to pick up that puck and have some time to do something with it once it's in the zone.
Gary, the shot so far 15-8 for the Islanders, and I would not have guessed that in this first period.
Now I thought also that the Flyers would play closer checking. How about that for a sign?
The fellow used to wear this hat with Dave Schultz, Schultz's Army or whatever he called him.
That's the newest style right here in Philadelphia.
Bridgman is number 10. Tried to get the draw, but Tonelli was on it quickly. It's cleared out over the line. This is Tonelli in center for New York.
moving in, got around Daly, and then was knocked down. Still fighting for it, though. It's underneath them. Now it comes loose. Merrick didn't see it, but they had called the play anyway for a face-off near the line.
Bob Daly was in the penalty box when Mike Bossy scored the goal and tied the game here in this first period. But Gary, I think that in this playoff round, he has played some of his best ever hockey.
And it's amazing because right after the season, he has to go in for a shoulder operation, and he is in constant pain. But boy, what an asset he is out there with that long reach of his.
A minute and 20 seconds left in the first period. Score tied at 1 from the draw. Bridgman again. A nice play for Lawrence coming in fast. Here's Lawrence, the low shot. He got the rebound and couldn't make contact. Back of the net, Pearson hanging on to it. Got away from Al Hill. Threw it into the corner. Tonelli going after it. But Daly comes in from the line and he battles for it. They'll get a whistle this time. And a face-off coming up in the New York zone.
Well, there's one play right there. Now, the Flyers had the pressure on. The Islanders didn't panic. Stephen Pearson, very effective there. Didn't give that puck away. The normal tendency would be to fire it around the boards like it's a hot potato. He hung on to it. There was a face-off. The play is dead. I think that's going to be the determining factor, is who coughs up that puck, when the pressure is put on.
There you see the time left to play in this first period. A minute and a second from the draw. Islanders on it right away to try to move it out. Bossy got it to the line, but not out. Kept in by Holmgren. Philadelphia looking for it, but it's Mike Bossy. A pass ahead up the line at center. Trottier shoots it in. Out of the net is Peters against Bourne. It was in quickly. Here's Bossy trying to set it up. Two Islanders in front of the net on that play, but they couldn't get the pass over to them. There's Bossy still fighting for it. 35 seconds left in the period, and it's cleared into the center ice area. Now Daly going back, but offside was called at the line.
For this game and series, a lot of people thought the Flyers would try to slow down Mike Bossy with some physical checking on him, but I tell you, he's had some pretty good chances tonight.
Dick, when you're as elusive and as speedy as Bossy is, it's very difficult to hit a guy. The only way he's going to become vulnerable is when you get him in the corners or along the boards, but Bossy seems to head for that open ice all the time. Then he's tough to hit. There's another guy, Bob Bourne. How do you catch somebody like that in order to hit him? You can't.
These teams split the 4 games they played in the regular season. 1-1 here in Philadelphia, 1-1 at the Island, and ironically, all of the scores were 5-2.
Now 31 seconds left in the period. Andy Van Helleman just ordering the Islanders back. They cannot make another change. They wanted to. I think Bossy has to be on. Yes. So Bossy comes on. Van Helleman spotted that move. And Sutter has to leave. There's Bossy. 22.
We've got Bossy, Trottier, and Gillies reunited. They haven't played together all that much. Now they say Gillies has to leave, so Bourne goes back on.
Well, again, those lineups, they will only be that way for a period of time. A lot of juggling by both coaches.
Well, with 30 seconds left of the period, Jimmy Watson is scampering back for it. And he has it back of the net, in the corner. 23 seconds left. He drops it for Clark. Bobby Clark doesn't see much room, but gets the pass away for Arbour. He couldn't pick it up. Now Sutter played it in on the wing. Gillies nearly got loose. Back for Leach of Philadelphia. In with Clark. 10 seconds left. Here's Leach breaking in. He overstates it in Gord Lane. Will move it down the ice, and that will kill the period as Peters watches it go through the crease just as the horn goes to end the first period. And we all thought it would be a physical, tough, rough first period. It was rather mild, Gary.
Well, there were a few good hits, a lot of good skating out there, but I thought the key to that period was the work of Pete Peters. He came out with several outstanding saves.
And so the score at the end of the first period is New York Islanders 1, the Philadelphia Flyers 1.
In the Stanley Cup final, Mel Bridgman opened the scoring for the Flyers, and then on a power play, Mike Bossy tied it for the Islanders, who outshot Philadelphia by a 15-9 count. It's a pleasure to welcome the captain of the New York Islanders, Dennis Potvin. And I must ask, first of all, about the Mel Bridgman goal. A weird one, to say the least, to start this game.
Well, there was a little mix-up behind the net between Smitty and Bob Lorimer, and I think that's where Mel got the loose puck, and he came around, and Smitty made a great effort to come back, and he had the puck and everything. His legs were spread open, the puck was sitting there, and usually, in a situation like that, you'll just try and smother the puck under the goaltender, and as soon as I moved it, I guess something happened, and it just trickled by the line, and I was upset that there wasn't a whistle call, because I thought there had been plenty of time where the puck had been smothered. There should have been a whistle, but he called it that way, so we had to give up the first goal.
It was significant that you came back to tie it. Mike Bossy did. Significant that you did it on the power play. The theory has been that if you score on power play opportunities, the Flyers are going to be rather reluctant to play their game, which might lead to penalties. Makes sense to me.
Well, it certainly helps us, because that's a situation that I think playoffs, it's a necessity to have a good power play. And I think that it's against a team like Philly, who's apt to start running around and maybe take a lot of hits and maybe take a few penalties. It's going to hurt them if we can score on our power play.
That was the only power play opportunity of the period, and there was all this talk about a physical game. People were wondering whether it was going to take an hour and a half to play the first period. What do you think when you read all of the stories about how tough, dirty, rough it's going to be?
I think that everybody sort of looks at the paper and says, well, this gentleman wrote a nice article, but I think he's wrong, and then this gentleman wrote another nice article, but he might be wrong too. I think both teams respect each other a lot, and I think that's where the difference is, and there's a lot of respect amongst players, amongst teams, coaches, and I think that the two teams, both in the same division, we played a lot against each other that we're not going to prove anything to each other. There's nobody that's done anything out there that we haven't seen before, and the tension right now, I think you can cut it with a knife, and it's slowing the game up a little bit, but I think it'll pick up as the series goes on.
Maybe we can get even with the newspaper writers. They've been saying you're thinking more about defense than offense, which is a change for you. How true is that?
Well, I guess because of the scoring stats, I haven't been scoring too many goals, but I've had my opportunities. The puck hasn't been going in the net. Power plays, I've had my good shots. I have been scoring, but there's no question that there's no need for me to carry the puck like I did in past playoffs, because we've got so many forwards now that are doing such a great job up there that it'd be silly for me to take the chance on getting caught up the ice. And I just try and generate the attack from our zone, move that puck, keep our forwards moving, keep them on the fly. And I'm very satisfied with that. The outcome of the game is most important.
Sure, Al Arbour's satisfied with it too, and the Islander fans. And I think you can be satisfied with the first period. Slight advantage for the Islanders and a tie on the scoreboard. Thank you, Dennis, very much.
Thank you.
Dennis Potvin, the captain of the New York Islanders. Next, we'll look at another defenseman on the other team, a younger man, Ben Wilson. As Stanley Cup 80 continues in just a moment. Philadelphia, when he's playing well, and he's done that often in these playoffs.
People describe hockey as grown men playing a child's game. And as Shaw once wrote, childhood is much too precious to be wasted on children. Ben Wilson plays with the intensity of a man and the spirit of a child. Hockey is a big part of his life, and it keeps him busy.
Well, during the hockey season, hockey is demanding physically. I also try to study some sort of theater. I've taken a lot of speech arts and drama lessons, which are a part-time interest of mine right now. And during after games and that, I like to go out and go to some clubs or discos and that and try to relax.
Though happy with his profession, Ben wonders from time to time what else he might be doing.
If I wasn't a hockey player, I guess I'd like to be a rock star, but I think what's held me back in the music profession is the fact that I can't sing.
Though it seems shorter each year, there is an NHL off-season. And for Ben, an opportunity to pursue other things.
In the off-season, I get away from hockey as much as I can, with staying in shape. Last summer I went to school back in Toronto. I also did some traveling. I was down in Florida and the Bahamas. And I like to see different parts of the world maybe that I haven't seen, through my hockey and travel due to the structure of the schedule. This summer, for instance, I'm planning on going over to Europe for a little while.
He also has an appreciation for history and for the things of the past. And he pursues this interest in his spare time.
I have grown up with antiques around my home, and my parents collect a lot of antiques, so I have the antique bug, to say the least, and I spend a lot of time going through old antique shops looking for pieces of furniture or whatever to fill my house with. I've bought a few pieces that I personally like. I'm really impressed with a bedroom suite that I bought. It's early American solid walnut piece, and it's very ornate, and it's something I think I've been looking for a long time, and I'm lucky I was at the right place at the right time, and it's mine.
Ben went to Philadelphia as a rookie in 1978 and now considers that home.
I'm very pleased with the Flyer organization as well as the city, and I can't think of a place I'd rather spend my hockey career than in Philadelphia. There's a tremendous variety of different galleries or interesting museums in which to attend. One is the Art Museum, which is, I think, famous throughout the U.S. It's tremendous. The Rodin Museum is a block away from my home. The Ben Franklin Institute of Science and Technology are all just within walking distance, so it enables me to spend an hour and go look and learn a few things.
And what about the future?
If I played 10 years in the league, I think that I'd be happy. But the year that I would retire, it would have to depend on how much I still enjoy the game, and you know, what the traveling is like then, if there's more teams, more traveling, and things like that. Also, what the alternative to retiring from hockey is. I hope to complete my undergraduate degree, and hopefully by that time I've finished maybe my MBA or some postgraduate degree. In that case, maybe I'd have an excellent opportunity to move into business in some sort. I'm keeping the doors open right now, but I think the transition from hockey to business all depends on what the opportunities are.
2 years in the league and apparently a clear understanding of where he's going and how to get there. One of the NHL's newest stars, with a love and respect for the things of the past.
I think that you have to look at everything in a greater perspective and realize that you work to get where you are, and the harder you work, the farther you'll get. So you can't fool yourself, and I think that's the final analysis. That's who you're in competition with.
Ben Wilson, an interesting young man whose interests extend far beyond the hockey rink. Don Cherry is next in the Coach's Corner as we return with the Stanley Cup playoffs in just a moment. But here's one without which you can't win: goals and scoring.
Tonight on this episode of Coach's Corner, we're going to talk about goal scoring. Now, I know, and you know, and everybody knows that they love the flashy goal, the fleur, Perreault, everybody breaking down the ice, putting it in the top corner. But you know, the goals that count most and the ones that happen the most are tip-ins and screens. Now, here's Lafleur with one of those glamour jobs. Look at that. I love it, too. I wish they were all like that. But let's look at Hull on the next one now. Watch him break down. It counts just the same. He's going in on the defenseman. Watch, he uses him at a screen. Bingo. They can't stop, but they can't see. And there's nothing he can do about it. And it's, I tell you, I would love the flashy ones. Now watch Barber here. Barber goes in, he sees he can't shoot. Goalie will get it. Prop sets up in front, zingo. Just like Prop's the big guy on that one. He wouldn't have gone in without Prop. And I'll tell you one thing right now, that if you don't have a guy in front screening, you'll never score a lot of goals. Now we have tip-ins. Now here we go on tip-ins. The guys practice this all the time. Here we go. Watch this. This is Gretzky. Not a bad hockey player, I'll tell you. Scored a few goals on us. Got to stick on the ice. That's the key. Right between the eight. Got a few of those, I'll tell you, this year. Now here we come again. Napier going around. Beautiful. Watch Lambert. He's got to have his stick down. Out to the point. Now watch Lambert in the corner. Got to stick down. That's the key. Bingo. He doesn't even know it hit his stick. Now let's see that one again. We got it again. Stick down. There it goes. Between the legs. No chance at all. Doesn't have a chance at all. Beautiful. Now we have Napier. Now watch, Napier is a little different. Over LaPointe. Now watch LaPointe. He lays it in there. He doesn't try to score. Napier is standing there. Touches it. Top corner. That's the way to do it. That's what you have to do. Beautiful. Top corner. Now, you know, everybody loves the flashy goals. I love to see them too. But you can't win. It's winning. Watch them in the playoffs. They're crowding. Gary Dornhofer specials. That's the way to win games. And that's it from Coach's Corner.
Don needed the Mel Bridgman goal from the first period to prove that they don't have to look good, and that one certainly did not look good. But it counted. It's the reason Philadelphia and the Islanders are tied at 1. And now, for the second period, Dick Irvin, Bob Cole, Gary Dornhofer.
Regular season and lost only 5 times. Native of Edmonton, played in the Maine Mariners, the organization, the farm team for the Philadelphia team, and played very well. So we are set. Bob Cole for the second period.
Okay, Dick, it's tied at 1 as we get set to start the second period. Now it's underway. Philadelphia in possession from the draw. Wilson. He just played it over on the other side for McElhargy, who shoots it in. Smith out of the net to stop it. Potvin overskates it, doubles back. Now he has to hold it. He's forced to hold it there.
And they get a whistle for a face-off in the New York zone.
Well, as you mentioned before, Dennis Potvin certainly plays a key role out there, the way he handles that puck. But you know, on the Flyers have Jack McElharty. Now, he hasn't played for a long period of time. I would think that the Islanders would exploit him out there, dump it into his corner, make him handle the puck, and try to force over, you know, some turnovers.
He's playing tonight in place of the injured Norm Barnes on defense for Philadelphia.
Bridgman with Dorrance and Hill. There's Dupont, the defenseman, along with Daly. Face off to the right of Smith. There it is. Back of the net. Pearson. He hangs on to it in the corner. Cleared it up on the wing. It's still inside the line. Bossy chopped at it. And it goes out to center ice, and Bridgman feeds it back in. Langevin on this side has to move in a hurry. Not fast enough. Gorin, forechecking, slapped it in. And then Bossy tipped it down the ice as the Islanders were a little confused inside their own line. Now Daly around the net. He lost it. This is Bossy, ever dangerous. Bossy slides it through the crease. And Al Hill will bring it out for Philadelphia. But getting back quickly is Trottier, and he left it there. Bridgman circles back to center. A good move. Now Bridgman laid it up on the wing. It's cleared in. Flyers play looking forward. Hill went by. The fans calling for a penalty. Play goes right on along the boards. They jam in on it, and there's no further play. Little talking, little pushing, nothing develops.
Gary Daly was in along the boards, and the Flyers, as that first period came to an end, their defense started to pinch in a little bit more from the blue line when they were having those, you know, they weren't getting much going in the way of offense.
Well, anytime a team will throw that puck along the boards, that's what you do, force them.
From the Spectrum in Philadelphia, this is Stanley Cup 80. Play just underway from that face-off of the New York zone, and the Islanders bring it out. Morrow's pass missed Nystrom and slides in back of the net. That's Watson going back. Nystrom against him, trying to pick it up. Now Merrick comes in looking for it. They jam in on the boards, and Linzman speeds away around the net. Don't give him too much room. He can really fly. He dropped it back in front of the net. Now Busnick coming out for Philadelphia. A pass to Holmgren, a good one at center. High shot, way up high, and grabbed by Billy Smith. He hangs on to it. It's in the mesh back there. Now they begin to push and shove. I don't know, Gary, but we might get something going this period. It seems as if they're coming out now with a score tied at 1 to do some testing.
Well, I don't think you want to get carried away in that testing position. You know, one bad penalty or a silly penalty where you retaliate, Bob, will result, you know, in being serving some time in the penalty box. And then with these two teams with their power plays, you know, both teams can put the puck in the net. And you'd hate to lose a game that way. They have to keep their cool and their concentration, which is so very important.
Well, it took the Islanders just 11 seconds, Gary, to get the power play goal, the only power play chance either team had in the first period.
You know, an interesting statistics. Up until that time, the Flyers were shorthanded 83 times. They only gave up 7 goals, and they scored 6 shorthanded goals. That's phenomenal.
-1 overall. Not bad.
Not bad. That's great.
Okay. Easy now, Gary. Easy.
I feel he should have 3 penalties for elbowing up here already tonight.
We don't have much room up here, you know.
Lots of room tomorrow. You two gentlemen are going out on the links, I understand, so be good to each other now. Keep your head down, Gary. New York trying to move it out. Unsuccessful. Kept in on the wing. Now Bourne goes back to help. This is Potvin's pass. Up for Bourne. He's away to center ice. Here's Bourne going in. Bourne looking dangerous on this rush. Slides it in front. It went by Leach. He sees it in time, but he can't stop Goring, who flipped it in back of the net. Gillies going over there. He's put off stride. Now he gets a pass back. Potvin scores! Beautiful play by Gillies. Got it back. Potvin picking the top corner, and it's 2-1, New York.
Gillies got away from McElharty as the puck rolled around the boards. Boy, Potvin snapped that wrist shot, Gary.
Don't wake Clark Gillies up once he starts to play. Look at Potvin going to the slot area. Now you'd think a lot of guys would slap the puck. Potvin has one of the best wrist shots. There was the reason why. But there's the big key play, finding that open man. Look at the way he handles the puck off his skates. That's almost a forgotten art. Wastes no time in putting it in the top corner.
2:20 the time of that goal. And the Islanders lead, and they're coming out again. Here's Gillies over center. Big Clark Gillies going in. Slides a pass in front, and Sutter was covered in front of the net by Jimmy Watson. Now Barber with Leach. Down to center ice. The pass comes this side. They just flip it into the corner. Busnick is stopped. Sutter went after it. Jimmy Watson took him out of the place. Sutter again. Shoots it down the ice, and Leach is back. At the 3-minute mark, a fight has started now down on the other end to the right of Billy Smith. Jimmy Watson going at it back there. And it had to happen.
Dwayne Sutter of the Islanders. It started rather innocently, I thought, but as the puck went up ice, Watson hung tough along the boards, and they came together at close quarters. Yeah, that's the first outbreak. Watson's the man in the white underwear.
Well, it was a matter of time. You know, you could sense something was going to happen at the start of this period. Maybe after one round, things will cool off. You know, they got it out of their system. I don't think either team is going to be intimidated. Not in the finals, that's for sure.
Tonight's Stanley Cup playoff game is coming to you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Have taken a 2-1 lead.
Again, Clark Gillies keeps his balance and then finds Pothead, but I like the way he handles that puck off his skates and just the wrist shot.
And now Jimmy Watson has left the penalty box and is going to the Philadelphia dressing room.
The undressing room. I think his suspenders have broken.
One or the other.
It's as far as he got the corridor.
Okay, here's Wilson at the line, shooting it up for Kelly. It hit him and bounced right back to Wilson. Now on this side, Busnick spinning around near his own blue line. Not much room there thanks to Wade Merrick's checking. Busnick again hopping across center, shoots it in. It's wide of the net in back of the goal. New York trying to clear it out. Kept in by Philadelphia. Tonelli couldn't move it. That's Holmgren back there trying to get over in front. And now Merrick. A pass down to Nystrom at center. He had a little trouble. Now carries in. Nystrom's low shot. And that's stopped by Peters. 3.5 minutes gone in the period. It's 2-1 Islanders. They're at it again. And there's a shot by Nystrom. That's knifed away by Peters. New York Islanders looking very impressive in this first game of the Stanley Cup final. And they've jumped out in front 2-1 here in the second period. I'm Bob Cole along with Dick Irvin, Gary Dornhofer. And here's Nystrom coming in again. Nystrom is stopped before he can move toward the net by Ben Wilson's check. Kelly for Holmgren. He has to wait in his own zone. Got away from Tonelli. He and Kelly then bumped together. Now Trottier moved in after it. He's across the line up and it went flying. It's dropped back to the line. Here's a shot. Deflected. And it hit Peters. I don't know how. And he kicked out his skate and made a save. Big break there. I don't think Peters saw that one, Gary and Dick, but it dropped right down toward him.
Bob, when Morrow let that shot go, it changed direction. And Peters, you're right. He didn't know that it hit him, I'm sure. And the Flyers were very lucky right there. Well, we have a first for you, ladies and gentlemen. Here is our first replay of this final round of a player getting his suspenders repaired. There may be others, but that's the first one.
Wait. You know, another thing, that the Flyers are certainly coughing up that puck with that relentless forechecking the Islanders are employing here.
Morrow keeping it in for New York. The Islanders lead 2-1. And they're in forechecking deep now. Trottier along the boards. He's leaving it there for Bourne. Now Bourne has it. Bob Bourne taking a look. And DuPont carried him in on the boards. Trottier was bumped by Bridgman. Bridgman stopped by Trottier. He's still with it. Brian Trottier centered it. It's cleared away by Peters. Now Morrow at the line, keeping it in. Great pressure now. Applied by the New York Islanders. Bourne is belted by Daly and knocked down. And Gorens comes up with it. Can't get out of the zone of the first attempt. Here it is for Daly. He'll bring it down. Daly to center his pass. Hit escape. Tonelli blocked it. DuPont now on the right side for Al Hill. Went behind him. Now Hill has it. Hill going in. He played it in by Gorens. Into the corner is Lane. Lane for New York. Here's Bossy. Bossy's pass left behind his man, Howard. Now the Islanders had to come back. Brian Trottier coming out. The right side for Bossy. He was bumped near center ice. And again, Philadelphia's Bobby Clark. His pass is stopped. Checking close now. Here's Howard going across the line. Both teams changing as the play goes on. And Bobby Clark has it. They're nearing the 6-minute mark. On the second period, a pass down to Leach leading in. Leach against Putfang, got the shot away beautifully. And Smith grabbed it. This is Stanley Cup 80 from the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
First shot on goal in this second period. The Islanders have had 3. One of them, Denny Potvins, went in the net for the 2-1 lead.
And the total in shots now 18-10 for New York. 14-10 left in the second period. Here's a quick shot. And a great save by Billy Smith off that rifle shot by Leach. The Islanders shoot it down the ice. Busnick played it back for Wilson. Up to center to Clark. They've contained Bobby Clark pretty well so far in this hockey game. Now down the ice it goes. And as it's touched behind that goal line, icing call against New York.
Well, you know, you talk about containing Bobby Clark. I think you really have to, as we see Busniak, a young rookie, getting to his position. Clark, you know what that sign said, the heart and the soul. It seems that when Clark is productive and going out there, the rest of the team respond. So I think it's important for the Islanders to stop Clark. Don't let him freewheel out there and set up those plays and inspire his mates.
The New York Islanders 2 and the Philadelphia Flyers 1. 13:49 left in the second period. Bridgman and for Philadelphia, Bossy and Potvin for New York. The goal scorers. Pearson laid it up on the left wing. Henning knocked it out of his own zone down on the left side, and Bourne has it across the line. Bob Bourne tipped it right into Nystrom, and his shot is stopped. It's falling. Ben Wilson, a big save by the Philadelphia Flyers defenseman, and then it hops over the glass into the crowd.
Well, once again, the Islanders were able to freewheel up the ice, Gary, in rather uncharacteristic style, if you want to look at the way the Flyers normally play the opposition in this building. Good defensive play by Ben Wilson on Nystrom right there.
Oh, a good feed to Nystrom, and he just took a little bit too long to set up, and then once he was in that shooting position, couldn't pull the puck away from Wilson, who was sliding down to block the shot.
From the face-off, Morrow back at his own blue line for New York. Pass hit a skate. Gordy Lane will move it now. Gets up as far as center. Shoots a long one in. It comes right in front of the net. DuPont clearing it back down the ice. It's rolling toward the line. Won't go all the way, though, with Lane back to pick it up. 13-10 left in the second period. It's 2-1. The New York Islanders scoring, looking for it. It's along the boards. 2 players falling, and they get a whistle in the New York Islanders zone.
Well, there's another bearded defenseman, Gord Lane. The Islanders acquired him from Washington midway through this past season. He played 3.5 years for the Capitals. Good guy, native of Brandon, Manitoba. You know, the acquisition of Lane and then the arrival of Morrow, that allowed the Islanders really to make that trade to get Goring. They were able to give up someone as solid on their defense as Dave Lewis. And Lane has played pretty well.
13:04 remaining in the second period. The Islanders 2, the Flyers 1. I'm Bob Cole with Dick Irvin and Gary Dornhofer and Dan Kelly, who'll be along in just a few minutes to go the rest of the way with you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia in this Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Do the Islanders have a defenseman who doesn't wear a beard, Bob? I guess Lorimer.
Okay, Lane back of the net. Gets loose from a check. Nice play for Goring. Up to center down with Gillies. Here's Gillies coming in on this left wing against Big Daly. 2 big guys bump together. They hold it on the boards. It comes loose. Holmgren gets it back, but not out. Lane took a shot. That was a weak shot and wide. And now Philadelphia Lindsman speeding in and hopped over his stick. Back for New York. They shoot it down the ice. No icing on this one. With DuPont coming back. DuPont flipping it out to the line. Stopped by Lindsman. He couldn't control it. And now Bossy. He's up and near the line. And they call it on the offside. With a score, the New York Islanders 2 and the Philadelphia Flyers 1. This is Stanley Cup 80.
Paint you can be loyal to.
Play just underway and complete with the rest of the way now. In a hurry, here's Dan Kelly. Dan. Thank you, Bob Cole. Good evening, everyone. 2-1 Islanders. It's Lindsman for the Flyers at center. Gives it to Daly, who gets it into the Islanders zone.
Hot foul for New York. Fires one back out to center. DuPont, number 6 for Philadelphia, back to touch it, and as he does, icing called against the Islanders. 11:58 left in the second period, 2-1 New York.
Dan, you've been watching from just in behind us here in the broadcast booth. Your comments on the game so far?
And then for a while, it looked like a couple of big heavyweights kind of feeling one another out in the first 2 or 3 rounds of a big fight. But the Islanders, to me, have been deserving of the lead they have taken to this point in the game. It's a slim 2-1 lead, but they've had the better scoring chances, I think, Dick.
Not that many scoring chances in this second period. 3-2 the shot so far. They've played 8:02. Islanders with the edge.
Here's Bridgman on a face-off against Wayne Merrick. Bridgman, number 10 for the Flyers. Merrick, number 11 for the Islanders. Bridgman gets the drop. Ben Wilson shot right on. Bridgman a poke at the rebound. It went wide. Now Lorimer cleared it into the corner. Lawrence is there for the Flyers. Merrick for the Islanders. And in comes Hill and Lorimer, and it's held there for a face-off. This time to the right of the Islander goal.
Bob Nystrom of the Islanders. Gary, we've talked about the domination territorially that the Islanders have enjoyed, but Billy Smith has still had to come up with some pretty good stops.
Well, I thought the last 3 shifts that the Flyers had, it looks like the old Flyer team where they're forcing in there. They're getting in on the Islanders and causing those turnovers.
Already on another face-off. Merrick gets the draw this time. Merrick picks the puck up himself. Back of the net for number 26, Langevin. Now to Trottier, who just tipped it to center. Flyers, Watson clearing it back for Wilson. Flipped it into the corner. Langevin for the Islanders. On the left wing boards for Trottier. Trottier out at this point in the game on left wing with Merrick at center. Nystrom on right wing. They dump it in. Watson for Philadelphia. Shooting it around on the left wing boards for Hill. To Bridgman. Nystrom intercepts and held it in the Flyers zone. 10 is Mel Bridgman, the Flyer captain. To Wilson. Now to Bridgman. To Gorance on right wing. Langevin back to the Islanders. Bridgman gives him a wrap into the boards. But Tonelli for New York. Flips a lead pass. Too far for Nystrom. DuPont to Daly as the Flyers regroup. Try and clear it in. Now Holmgren dropping one back. Goring racing after it, but DuPont beats him to it for Philadelphia. He shot at the center. Langevin then lost it to Hill. Langevin gets it back again. Cleared it. Hit Hill with it, and now here's Tonelli for New York. John Tonelli trying to beat it through for Goring. Broken up. Islanders. Nystrom holding it in the zone. DuPont back for Philadelphia. And he clears to center. Morrow, number 6 for New York. Hit Linsman with it. Morrow gets it again. In on right wing to Sutter. And the play was offside at the Philadelphia blue line.
Dwayne Sutter involved in that fight just recently with Jimmy Watson. What an opportunity for a young rookie called halfway up the season, playing in a Stanley Cup final. There tells the history of the Flyers, gentlemen. 2 Stanley Cups. You know, it was an interesting comment that Bobby Clark made. He said trying to compare the team to, that are trying to win the Stanley Cup now from the other years. As the other years, they won the 2 cups. This one has yet to win. We will see.
There's a man who knows a lot about winning. The man you just heard say it, Gary Dornhofer. The man who just got the face-off, Clark. Here's Gillies flipping one in. Back after it. Watson, number 20 for the Flyers on right wing to Leach. He shot it to center. Lane for the Islanders. Loses to Clark. Clark to a bad angle. Tries to center one. Did, but broke it up. And cleared away by Morrow. Back after it is Busnick. Number 28, Busnick for Philadelphia. Drop pass now to Watson. Up the middle to Barber to Clark. Clark looking for Leach. Pass was behind Leach and intercepted by Morrow. To Sutter on right wing. Over to Gillies. Gillies was checked from behind by Clark. A good defensive play. Now Henning shoots. Bad save by Peters on a slap shot by Henning.
Good save by Peters that time.
Stanley Cup 80 will continue in just a moment. Period. Mike Bossy and Dennis Potvin for the Islanders. Mike, or at least Mel Bridgman, has scored for Philadelphia. Here's Trottier against Bridgman. Islanders lane a shot. Here's Bourne, a backhander. That hit Trottier in front of the net, and Bridgman
Feeds it to Al Hill, number 15. Hill with Gorans. They crisscross. Hill shot in the glove, saved by Smith. Bridgman centered one, cleared away by Morrow. Now Lane on the left wing boards to Bourne. Tied up by Daly. Flyers working to the side of the net. Daly shoots! And a sprawling save by Billy Smith.
Well, we looked at Billy Smith making the save right there off Bob Daly, and here is Phil Meir, the backup goaltender tonight in the Flyers scheme of things. Started 5 times in this playoff year, won all 5. And it was a surprise when today Pat Quinn went from Meir to Peters to start this game. But you can't fault Peters the way he's played here tonight.
Meir had won 4 in a row in the last series to eliminate Minnesota. Thinking was that Quinn would go right back with Meir, but he went with the rookie Peters. Loose puck on the boards from the faceoff, held in by Daly. Now Persson, number 7, the Swedish defenseman for the Auditors, couldn't get it out. DuPont held it in. High shot, Smith caught that. Now Persson to Langevin. Rink-wide pass to Persson. Teams are playing a very cautious brand of hockey at this point. And that's been really the story of much of the game. Here's Langevin to Bourne. Bourne knocked down by McLeish. Bourne gets it again. Kelly knocked it away from him. And here's Daly, number 2, leading a 4-man Flyer rush to McLeish. Broken up. Now Barber had it, but the puck came outside the line and then was carried back in offside.
Well, Chico Resch is the backup goaltender for the Islanders. There is Chico. You see him, it's not much bigger than that, looking over the boards down there. They tell me he's been on a walkie-talkie here tonight. I don't know. There, well, you see, there it is. There's the antenna just up above the boards. So the Islanders must have some of their coaching staff up high in the spectrum, Gary, and Chico's at the other end of the communication line.
Give me information. Now, either team has had a concentrated attack, so we really haven't seen the work in front of the goaltenders that we had anticipated.
Puck shot in by the Flyers, McElhargy. Now Holmgren in behind the net to Linsman. Linsman gets away from Merrick, dropped it back, but Nystrom, number 23, has it for the Auditors. Nystrom trying to work around McElhargy to Canelli, a backhander, and Peters came out to make the save. Going to be a penalty here. Comes to Lorimer, and a penalty now for hooking against the Flyers. And the Auditors will have a man advantage. Live from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, the Stanley Cup playoffs.
But you notice on that play with Linsman, he had no chance of catching Nystrom. Why not look behind him, see who's coming, and let the defense handle him? And in result, the Islanders will have a man advantage.
Islanders scored a power play goal earlier. They lead in the game 2-1. Here's Clark for the Flyers to Leach. Reggie Leach shoots one, and a stick save by Smith. That's Canelli for the Auditors, number 27. Runs into Persson, his teammate. Now fired one out to Nystrom at center. Nystrom trying to work around Watson. Flipped it back of the net. Peters is there to clear it away. Now Merrick back on the point for Potvin. Shoots. Saved by Peters on a tough shot by Potvin from the right point.
And we finally get some heavy traffic in front of one of the nets. Peters did a good job there, Gary, with the traffic in front of him. He was under pressure.
Well, Nystrom and Tonelli were both crowding the net, but you noticed on that play the way Potvin moved into the center, move into the center of the ice and get the shot away. Look at the position that Nystrom has. He's working in front, trying to screen, and that's what it takes. But that puck was bouncing on Potvin, and he really never got good wood on it.
There was nobody that did it any better than Mr. Dornhoff.
Well, Don Cherry said it in his coach's corner, that first intermission. You don't get the screens in front, you don't get as many goals.
Here's Clark against Trottier. A minute 28 left in the Kenny Linsman penalty. 2-1 Islanders leading. On the faceoff, Clark and Trottier both a little jumpy on this draw. So much so that they're going to get tossed out of there. Clark Gillies will take the faceoff for the Auditors, and Jimmy Watson will do the chores for the Flyers. Now they make a change, and Busnick will take the faceoff for Philadelphia. Power play still on for the Auditors. Loose puck from the faceoff, but it comes to Clark. The hit on right wing to Leach. A one-on-one break. Leach against Persson. And Persson steered him off to the side. Now Leach back to Busnick. And he was checked as he went to shoot by Trottier. Clark for Philadelphia. They're short-handed. They drop it back to Jimmy Watson. And Watson then cleared it away for Philadelphia. Smith. Keeps it over on right wing for number 19, Crutcher. Islanders on the power play, 55 seconds left in Linsman's penalty. Here's Crutcher. Trying to get it through. Daly breaks it up, and Arbour cleared it away. And back goes Potvin. Over on the right wing boards to Bossy. Bossy dropping it to Goring. Puts Goring to Potvin. In on right wing to Bossy. Now back to Pearson. Shoots one, and he blasted it wide by a couple of feet. Bridgman cleared it away for Philadelphia. 20 seconds left of the Linsman penalty. Pearson. The front Billy Smith held down off to the side of the net. Is back in position, however, and here's Bossy. Bossy, who scored the first Islander goal, into Goring. Shooting, and he blasted it wide. Comes to Potvin. Over to Lane at the left point. Lane trying to set up Goring. Tipped away. Linsman's back on. Flyers have killed it off as Barber clears to center to Bridgman. 2-on-1. Philadelphia break. Bridgman with Linsman. Bridgman shot. The save. Another shot. Linsman a poke at it, and Billy Smith stopped 3 in a row.
Well, anytime a man comes out of that penalty box, you know it's important that your bench or the goaltender lets you know that he's coming on the ice. And it could have been a disaster there for the Islanders.
Well, it led to the 2-on-1 with Bridgman on the right side. He elected to shoot originally, and that's when the rebound situation developed. Here's Linsman moving in the front of the net. Bridgman number 1. Bridgman, look at that chance. Smith, good reaction. Linsman from in behind, no angle, no room.
There's Lane really getting Bridgman out of there, clearing the player away from in front. There's the sign man, and you'll see lots of those in tonight's game.
Islanders in the game to this point have outshot Philadelphia 22-19. They lead in the game 2-1. Here's Lane for the rookie Sutter, who cleared it to center. Number 3, Ben Wilson for the Flyers. Fires one to center. Morrow knocking it down there for the Islanders. Shoots it back into Sutter, and that's offside of the Philadelphia blue line as Sutter and McElhargy have some words.
Well, there's Butch Goring, a long-time Los Angeles King, joined the Islanders just before the trading deadline in the second week in March. And that was a bit of a turnaround time, Gary, for the New York club.
Yes, it was. And, you know, he's a quiet individual, and he said, look, and I'm just happy to be here. This is quite a thrill for me, and whatever it takes to win, I'll do it. He's got a big job in his hand watching Linsman.
Goring with Howard and Sutter, the forward line for the Islanders. Faceoff is going to be just at the Philadelphia line. There's Holmgren out on right wing, head on against Howard. There are a couple of feisty ones. Goring gets the faceoff, but Ben Wilson gets the puck for Philadelphia. Over to McElhargy. McElhargy cleared one outside the line, and it's shot back in by Goring offside at the Philadelphia blue line.
All right, Gary, you just said that Goring has to watch Linsman. But what about Linsman watching Goring? Because Butch can do his thing too. You know, he's not totally a defensive player.
Well, that's true, Dick. But, you know, you look at Linsman, the acceleration and the speed. I mean, he's dangerous every time he's out there, and they're aware of that. You know, he has the breakaway potential, and once he gets motoring, it's very difficult to stop. And he's going to game the zone for you. That's why he becomes so effective.
The Flyer line is Linsman, Kropp, and Holmgren as Islanders shoot it in. Ben Wilson back to get it. Wilson and McElhargy on defense. Here's McElhargy getting away from Sutter. Lead pass on right wing for Linsman, and that's called back on the 2-line offside on the pass from inside the Flyer line.
If I may just carry that point one step further after the commercial, I will.
The Stanley Cup playoff game is coming to you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Shots on goal favor the Islanders. The scoreboard favors the New York team too. It's 2-1. 5 minutes now left in the second period. Here's Watson for Philadelphia. Lead pass to number 9, Kelly. Kelly charges in after it. Back of the net to Barber. Barber bumped off the puck, and Tonelli for the Islanders losing it. Here's Barber in the corner. Centered it. Nystrom for New York intercepts. Number 23, Bob Nystrom. To Tonelli, and it flipped up over the boards into the Islander players' bench.
Well, there's Rick McLeish in his 10th season. A somewhat controversial performer at times, Gary, here in Philadelphia.
Well, you know, Ricky got 30 goals plus this year, and he was playing with different combinations throughout. Right now, he's the forgotten man. He is the extra forward. Unbelievable. I played for him a lot of years and very effective at handling that puck. He has the rate as one of the top wrist shooters in the league.
50-goal man. I will never forget the game he played against the Soviets when he played the Soviet Red Army team here early in '75. Just absolutely magnificent.
Talk about controlling a game. He did that.
McLeish is at center ice on this ship with Barbour on left wing, Kelly on right wing. Here is Langevin shooting it in for New York. Nystrom digs in after it to Merrick behind the net. Merrick and Watson battle for it. Comes to Nystrom, but the play had been whistled out. The faceoff will be in the Philadelphia zone.
Well, there's number 11, Wayne Merrick, a former Ottawa junior, and he has been a bit of a traveled hockey player. Played down for the St. Louis Blues, as you well know. He was a top draft choice by St. Louis, went to California, Cleveland, finally the Islanders.
You know, one thing you have to remember, too, though, even though the Flyers had that fantastic record there this year with the streak and everything, they were 7th in goals against. So they do give up some goals. And I think the Islanders, they certainly sense this, that if they have the strong forechecking, they will come up with their opportunities.
Both teams are playing this game very close to the vest. For game one of the Stanley Cup final.
Very cautious, would you say?
Just a mite. Here's Trottier on the faceoff. Trottier dropping one back. Now they get it to Potvin at the point. Shoots one. Stick save by Peters, who was going to clear it, then changed his mind and held on for a faceoff.
There was a great opportunity right there. Potvin had all kinds of time. He didn't release it for a period of time. Now, why not try to get somebody in front there? Actually, Bossy was trying to get in front. DuPont had him tied up pretty good.
There's your answer, exactly. Good job by DuPont.
Pete Peters, an 8th round draft choice in '77, and a rookie in the NHL who's had a banner year. Face-off is to the right of Peters. Bridgman against Trottier. Puck comes outside the line. Lorimer has it for the Islanders. He gives it to Bourne, number 14. Bourne circling back. Fires it up the middle. Here's a break for Trottier. Right in. Skate save. Rebound is flipped out in front end. Unable to handle it was Bossy. That comes Philadelphia. Goranson right wing to Bridgman. He was checked and he went to shoot it. Lorimer will get a penalty here for hooking, and the Flyers will have a power play chance.
Gary, a moment here at one end and then the other could be very important when you look back at the end of this game.
This may be the turnaround that the Flyers are looking for. You know, we've talked all along, gentlemen, throughout the year as we see Lorimer going to the penalty box. The time to make a save at a crucial time. Pete Peters made it on a breakaway.
That was a great pass. Tonelli setting up Trottier, and down at the other end, Lorimer hauls down Bridgman, and he is off hooking at 16:08. First power play chance the Flyers have had tonight. Here's the save coming up, Gary.
Oh, you'll never get a more exciting play, but, you know, I'm surprised that Bossy will go to his backhand. You know, it's very difficult to get that puck up unless he was trying to go through the legs. Try to shift to go to your forehand, then you can do so many more things with it. But Peters, he certainly came up with a save there.
Face-off is going to be to the left of the Islander goal. Lorimer is off for hooking. 3:52 left in the second period. Flyers, 9 power play goals in the playoffs. They really came on strong in the power play department in the latter part of their series victory over Minnesota. Here's Clark in the corner, but Butch Goring gets it loose and cleared it away. Barbour and Daly are the point men for Philadelphia, with Clark, Leach, and Hill up front. Here's Daly. Over on the wing to Leach. In on right wing for Hill. Hill trying to make a play. Into the corner for Clark. Clark to Leach. Broken up by Lane. Clark again for Philadelphia. Number 16, Bobby Clark, and Goring chipped it away for the Islanders. Goring and Trottier are the penalty killers. Now Trottier is replaced by Hennig. Here's Clark. Lead pass to Leach. Leach on the wrong wing. Shoots hit the side of the net. Now Leach to the corner. To Clark. Back to Daly. Bob Daly shoots one and wide of the net. Bounced out in front. Leach picks up it. To Barbour. Barbour let it go. I think Clark deflected it.
Well, that's the second power play goal tonight, Gary. These teams are going to want to to stay away from the penalty box.
Well, good collision in front there. Smith and Hill. But watch Clark, he get himself into position. Lane looked like he had him tied up. But all it takes is a low shot from the point and a deflection. Again, the key was a wrist shot. Just trying to throw it in that slot area. Clark deflects it in the net.
Great anticipation by Clark. Saw what was happening, moved in front. Tie game, 2-2.
Now with number 27, Reggie Leach.
Barber and Leach get assists on the goal by Clark.
Well, that's one of the reasons Bill Barber is out on that point, is because he keeps that shot low.
Time of the goal, 17:08. A power play goal with Lorimer off, and it's tied 2-2 for Clark, his 5th goal of the playoffs. Shot in by the Islanders. Now back after it and in possession is Busnick, being forechecked by Ginelli. Now Watson for Philadelphia. To Lindstrom. Number 14, Lindstrom. He can fly. Tried to get through the defense, cleared away. Flyers have it again. Prop-centered one. Potvin takes over for New York. To Tonelli, number 27. John Tonelli on his backhand. Drops it to Lorimer, a shot that's weak and went wide. And then the goaltender, Peters, just held it against the side of his net.
Well, it's setting up that situation you talked about, Gary. The save by Peters in the breakaway, the ensuing penalty to the Islanders, and a power play goal.
I've seen it happen so many times where the goaltender just inspires the guys on the bench with that big save. That would have been 3-1. All of a sudden, we're tied at 2. There's the Flyers bench, talking things over. Barber, along with Clark. You know, after a shift, players will do that. Miss a check or an assignment, they'll go over things so they make sure they don't repeat that mistake the next time out there.
On the breakaway by Trotcha, Gary, you were surprised he didn't shoot, right?
Well, first of all, I must apologize to that with Bossy, but I thought he would go to his forehand rather than his backhand on that play.
There's Henning winning the faceoff. It comes to center. Lorimer couldn't handle it as it's tipped in, but Smith out of the net feeds it to Potvin. Shoots it around in the boards. Bridgman into the corner for Philadelphia. He's checked and Henning comes up with it, passing to Potvin. Goran steps into him. They battle for it on the board. And the faceoff will be in the Islanders' zone. Pat Quinn, the Flyer coach.
Well, there's John Tonelli, number 27, scored a very important goal for the Islanders last Saturday night when the Sabres took a quick 2-0 first period lead. He got New York back in the game, and it was his pass that sent Trotcha into the clear here a moment ago with that good scoring opportunity for New York.
Well, you know, both coaches are using their extra players. Kelly has seen a lot of ice time now and especially in this second period. He'll stir things up for you. Mad Dog Kelly.
Bridgman, Kelly, and Gorance the forward line. Bridgman gets the draw to Daly, and a glove save by Smith on a hard shot by Daly. Now Bourne for the Islanders to Gillies. Tried to set up Goring, broken up. Philadelphia on the attack again. And the whistle will play down on an offside at the New York Islander blue line.
It was a super glove save by Smith off that big drive from the right point by Bob Daly.
Well, the Flyers have been getting the draws on numerous occasions here, which have resulted from those good shots from the point in the slot.
Butch Goring out with Gillies on one wing, now Sutter on the other. Loose puck taken by Lane, but they whistle it down. A hand pass from one New York player to another, a stoppage in play, and another face-off in the New York zone. Minute 35 left in the second period. Flyers 2, Islanders 2. Gillies and Gorance, that matchup you see on your screen. Here's Bridgman against Goring. Puck comes loose. Along the boards, Gorance. Checked by Goring, who cleared it to center. Now DuPont to Kelly. Bob Kelly trying to clear it in. Goring knocks it down. Now Bridgman for Philadelphia. Shoots one around in the boards. Sutter, the Islander rookie. Good pass to Gillies. Clark Gillies with Goring into the Flyer zone. DuPont breaks it up, and Daly then cleared it outside the line, and Ken Morrow carried back in, and it's offside at the Flyer line.
Well, there seems to be a little more bounce to the Flyers. I noticed Gary during the power play leading to the goal. Everybody in the Philadelphia bench was on his feet. Nobody on the Islanders bench was. Here's that last collision.
DuPont knocking down Gillies right at the Philadelphia line. 1:04 left.
Well, both teams will certainly try to stand up at that blue line, not allowing that penetration whenever they can. That was a good play by DuPont. Stop Gillies from getting over that line. And all he did was just get in front of him, and he's not going anywhere.
Flyers 2 and the Islanders 2. Game 1 of a best-of-7 Stanley Cup final. Less than a minute to play in the second period as Potvin shoots it to center for New York. Back after it for Philadelphia is Busnick around on the boards to Watson. Number 20, Jim Watson to Busnick. Busnick played it off the boards for Leach. Potvin intercepted. Teams are playing very cautiously. Close checking. Here's Lorimer. Gets it to Trottier at center. Trottier upended by Busnick. And then Clark. Cleared one to center for Barber. Barber encased by Lorimer. And Lorimer with a one-handed poke check knocked it away. Here's Potvin to center. Backhanding one in. 15 seconds left in the period. Clark for Philadelphia. Fires one out to center ice. Lorimer to Merrick. Fired in wide of the net. Now Lorimer cleared it in behind the net as the buzzer goes to end the second period. Shots on goal in the second period by the Flyers 12, by the Islanders 9. On the game, the Islanders have had a total of 24 shots to the Philadelphia Flyers 21. And so the score at the end of the second period, the New York Islanders 2, the Philadelphia Flyers 2.
Score to a tie. Bobby Clark on a power play, his 5th playoff goal. The Flyers had the better of the play in that second period, 12-9 edge in shots, but the Islanders still, after 2 periods, have a 24-21 margin. It's a pleasure now to welcome Bill Clement, who was with the Flyers when they won their other 2 Stanley Cups in 1974-75. First to comment on watching the Flyers in the Stanley Cup final.
I was thinking of the electricity that seemed to surround the locker room when you're in the finals, even more so than the semis or the quarters. And I was sitting up in section 52, which is way up there, and unfortunately I couldn't feel it. And I think that's one of the things that I miss the most about not having advanced even to the quarters or the semis since I've been away from here, is that electricity, which is always in the air when you're a player, when you're involved in the finals. I obviously wish I could be out there. Well, I wish I could be out there at times. When I see somebody scoring a goal, I fantasize about being that guy. When I see somebody getting his face pushed into the boards or into the glass, I say, gee, it's nice to be up here.
That'll happen a few times in this series. Bill, of course, with the Flames, I'll be quite general in saying the nickname rather than the city. Penalty killing, we want to talk about that. It's been your specialty during a National Hockey League career, and everybody thought the way the Flyers killed off penalties against Minnesota and the way the Islanders had trouble in the power play against Buffalo, that could be a key part of this series. We've had 3 power play opportunities, a goal for each team, and only 1 penalty's been killed off. So how do you analyze what you've seen in that respect?
Well, the only thing that I can comment on concerning the ability of both teams to kill penalties or their successes of their power plays in the playoffs is that it seems different in every series. And the Flyers had the worst power play in the NHL during the regular season, but they've showed us that they are capable of scoring some goals on the power play. It's really interesting to note that Philadelphia has 5 shorthanded goals in the playoffs so far, and the New York Islanders have 6. And I was surprised to notice that statistic. I think that will really come into play in this series. If a couple of teams, or if a couple of goals are scored shorthanded by one team or the other, it could mean a great difference. So I think that might be something to watch for. That is the offensive ability of the respective penalty killers on both temes.
The Flyers against Minnesota used what they called, or what was termed, a diamond formation rather than the traditional box. Are there many ways to kill off penalties, or are there ways we haven't seen yet?
Well, a diamond's just a box that got one corner stepped on, I think. There aren't that many ways to kill a penalty. What you always want to do is when the puck is on one side of the ice, have your 4 players watching that side of the ice, and vice versa when the play is on the other side. One thing that I noticed the Flyers doing in the first period, it appears that they want to use Jimmy Watson and Busnick as their two starting defensemen killing penalties. And I don't think they're going to have much success with Clark Gillies or Bob Nystrom parked in front of the net. They are capable defensemen and they're best defensemen defensively, but they're just not big and strong enough to move a guy like Clark Gillies out of the way. So what they have to do is avoid getting tied up with them and then take an awful charge at them just when the shot comes from the point. But they're going to have their hands full, because Gillies was even instrumental on Bossy's power play goal. He was mucking around in front and was holding up the defensemen. So they better try and muscle as much as they can, or get Daly or DuPont out there to move a guy like Gillies.
Well, of course, Bossy hit 3 chances and finally put it in on the third one for the Islanders power play goal. Bill, thank you very much. Bill Clement of the Flames. And next we'll have a profile on film of Islanders coach Al Arbour as Stanley Cup 80 continues in just a moment. Team, and they were everybody's joke in the NHL, and they're hardly that anymore, and they could win that Stanley Cup. In 1978-79, the New York Islanders led the league in total points, and Al Arbour was named Coach of the Year, an honor which many people felt was long overdue. However, the loss to the Rangers in last year's All-New York semifinal diminished those achievements and led to the subsequent criticism that the Islanders couldn't win the big one, something they're trying hard to dispel.
I think it's a carryover from last year. You know, the New York people, the media there is a little different than anywhere else. Basically, all our fans were all Ranger fans at one time. But we're getting now the nucleus of fans that are strictly Islander fans. They've grown with the club. Now they're there. But somebody that's been a Ranger fan for 20 years, you'll never change them.
Though blessed with some of the top offensive talent in the league, the Islanders continued to slump at the start of this season. Where others might have panicked, Al Arbour stuck by his players and continued to stress the need for teamwork. The Islanders responded by finishing the season with a flourish that has extended into the playoffs.
I like to play a system that complements the players that you have. I know when I first got here, we didn't have many offensive players, and we played a very, very tight defensive system. And as the players progressed, we opened up our system to a certain degree.
Well, I would say that the greatest quality that Al Arbour has is the ability to communicate whatever thought he has at a particular time to the player. And players question, they want to know, they don't just accept. They want to have more of an understanding and a reason for what the team might be doing. And I don't think there's anybody better in that phase of the game.
Well, it's certainly very important to communicate with players on a daily basis. You know, you take lines together and defensemen together, and sometimes you take the whole team together and you try to stay on top of everything. Pretty well every day I watch videotape, and very seldom do I show videotape to the whole team, though. I'd rather take it on an individual basis or a line basis or the defensemen and things like that.
Al and his wife Claire live in this Huntington Cold Springs Harbor home with their 2 daughters, Julie and Janice. Enthusiastic participants in all sports, the girls somewhat surprisingly consider soccer their favorite pastime.
Al had only 1 full season there.
Although the Arbours are avid hockey fans, Al likes to keep the game separate from his family affairs.
You know, I don't talk to them too much about hockey, and, you know, I keep things to myself, where I go in my office and work it out, and I try not to bring my burden upon the family. I think the most relaxation I get is I come in here in the living room and I just put the stereo on and I listen to music for hours on end. And that kind of relaxes me quite a bit.
The Arbour's family room is full of trophies and mementos that chronicle Al's hockey career. A 12-year veteran of the NHL, Al ended his playing days in St. Louis in 1971. Always a popular player, he was honored by the local St. Louis fans with this plaque. It was during his stay with the Blues that Al came under the influence of general manager coach Scotty Bowman. As a player, he was team captain. And in 1970, he took over behind the bench when Bowman decided to devote full-time to his managerial duties.
You certainly pick up things from all the people that you've been involved with, and certain ideas that I have are certainly Scotty Bowman's ideas, along with other people that I dealt with, Tommy Ivan, Punch Imlock, and a great number of them.
Certainly one of the most astute coaches in the game, Arbour is aware of the many influences that are altering today's hockey. An exponent of team play, he believes that this idea should be emphasized, especially at the early learning stages.
There's no doubt that our hockey has to improve. I think we have to improve our player agility-wise and our passing. And You know, I think the kids today, they come up at 20 years old or 21 years old, and I think there's too much really dumping the puck in, and everybody just barrel into the corner and try to get possession of the puck. I'd like to see more pattern plays with the kids as they come up, and passing plays and things like that. You look at the Russians, their agility is just fantastic. Their playmaking, their passing is superb, and I think that's something that we have to combine in our game.
Al Arbour, the guiding hand behind the Islanders bench, and one of the finest coaches in the game.
During his long playing career, Al Arbour never missed the playoffs, and just once has that happened as a coach. As long as he coaches the New York Islanders, it's very unlikely it'll ever happen again. Coming up next, a coach in the National Hockey League this past season who just recently resigned, and we'll talk to Jacques Demers of the Quebec Nordiques about that as we return to the Philadelphia 2 Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final as we await the third period of play here at the Spectrum. And as mentioned, Jacques Demers will no longer be the coach of the Quebec Nordiques, and the obvious question is, why did you come to that decision?
Well, Dave, basically for personal reasons. I certainly don't believe in knocking anybody. The organization was really fair to me. They do want me to stay in the organization, and right now there's a decision. First time, it's my 8-year pro. I've never quit anywhere, and I don't believe in doing that. But sometimes, Dave, you look at all the possibilities, and being at 35, I think it was the best decision for Jacques Demers to be part of a different situation, not as coach of the Quebec Nordiques this year. Like I say, Mr. Filion and Joe Leger, the organization has been good, the players have been fair, and you know, when something like that happens, I think the most important thing, Dave, is to show some class, and the players have responded very well in the press today, and I think the respect of the players was there, have what they had said about their coach.
You mentioned other possibilities, and there are reports out of Montreal that one of those possibilities for you might be to be Claude Ruel's assistant with the Canadiens next year.
Well, Dave, sincerely, I've never talked to Mr. Grunman. The Montreal Canadiens is a very good organization. Claude Ruel is a tremendous coach. He proved it this year. And Mr. Grunman, with some of the trades he made, Dennis Heron is one of them, and the way he's worked with some of the drafts, Gaston Gingras, I think that the organization is one of the fine ones. But I am a member of the Quebec Nordiques organization. They have talked to me as long as Jacques Demers wants to work in the organization. He has a job there. In what capacity, it hasn't been definitely established, Dave, because it's just recently that this thing has happened.
I would expect if there was a chance for you to go to Montreal or stay in Quebec in another capacity that might not take you too long to decide what to do.
Well, you know, you got to look at the loyalty of the Quebec organization. Mr. Filion told me today, well, he said, Jacques, if there would be somewhere where someone wants you, we'd have to sit down and talk. But my loyalty right now is to the Quebec Nordiques.
Thank you very much to Jacques Demers. And
Shots on goal in that second period. The Flyers had the edge. And overall, 24-21, New York. Dan Kelly, period 3.
Islanders 2, Philadelphia 2, and immediately Potvin back behind his own goal, tried to clear one out of the zone and cleared it up over the glass. And now they're going to move the faceoff outside the Islander blue line. We've played just 7 seconds of the third period. Islanders with Butch Goring, Wayne Sutter, and Clark Gillies in the forward line. Flyers with Linsman, Propp, and Holmgren on their forward line. Faceoff just at the Islander blue line. Linsman cleared it into the zone, and Lorimer, number 4, is back for the Islanders. Lost it to Propp. Number 26, Brian Propp to Holmgren. Now to McElhargy. His shot nowhere near the net. Propp on the other wing. Knocked off the puck by Potvin. Puck comes to center. Here's Sutter for the Islanders. Into the zone, and sliding across was McElhargy to break it up. And then he falls and fell right on top of the puck. McElhargy, a little bit of a surprise starter tonight for the Flyers, Gary.
Well, Jack is certainly giving good account of himself. You know, his forte is certainly the aggressive play. You got to watch him clear the guys from in front of the net. But it's an opportunity. You have to make sure that you're ready when you're called upon. You know, it's kind of discouraging for a player to go through the whole playoffs and not see action, and all of a sudden in the championship round, here you are.
He is in uniform, and Norm Barnes, who's been bothered the last couple of months by a nagging groin injury, is the man that the Flyers' Pat Quinn scratched from his defense. Here's Bourne, a shot from the wing that's blocked at the defense, and then Gorans cleared it as he fell all the way down the ice. Race for the puck. Pearson, number 7, gets to it first, and as he touches it, icing called against Philadelphia.
Well, there's Al Hill, number 15 for the Flyers, who set a record with 5 points in his first NHL game. Well, Gary, you and I were talking before coming on the air about the draft choices, obviously the wisdom behind them for both of these teams. The Islanders have 5 players who have played in other teams in the NHL. Billy Smith is one. He's been with this team since day one, really. And the Flyers have 4 who've played elsewhere in the NHL. That's all. So really, it's homegrown talent you're looking at.
And that says something for the scouting systems of both teams, that get these young kids and develop them, and here they are.
Here's a shot from the faceoff that is handled by Peters. Islanders, Pearson couldn't hold it in. Now Bossy lost it. Here is Bourne clearing it to the corner. Digging in after it is Trottier. DuPont took it away from him. To Al Hill. Hill got it to the line. Now here's Pearson. To the side to Trottier. Moves in. And sliding out was Peters. To rob Trottier again. From the Spectrum in Philadelphia, this is Stanley Cup 80. Fire goal. McLeish is going to be thrown out of the face-off. Holmgren steps in against Merrick. Merrick gets the draw. Nystrom shot, and it went off Peters' glove and trickled just wide. Now Watson to Kelly. Nystrom knocked him out of the play. Now McLeish, number 19, quick wrist shot and a stick save by Smith on the low shot. Busnick held it in to Holmgren in the corner. He centers one. Busnick shoots. That hit Lane. Now McLeish to Holmgren. Holmgren and Merrick back of the net. Billy Smith intercepts it, and then Merrick cleared it around on the boards. Watson held it in. Cleared away by Merrick, and it's up over the glass and into the crowd.
Well, Dick, we saw it again, how the face-off, especially on the right-hand corner, where the defenseman, or the center iceman rather, is drawing it into the slot area.
Now look at the schedule. If this one goes the full 7 games, there you have it. I think that should be Tuesday, May 27th as the Game 7, but most importantly, Game 2, Thursday night here at the Spectrum, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, our start.
We have 18:20 left in the third period of this one. Islanders 2, Flyers 2. McLeish and Merrick on the face-off. Merrick wins the draw. Around on the boards to Lane, number 24. Gord Lane to Ken Morrow. Now to Nystrom. Number 23, Nystrom. Trying to set up Lane. Now Busnick takes this man out of the play, and the Flyers come back out of there. Couldn't get it out of the zone. Apparently Holmgren did, because when Nystrom carried back in, it's whistled down on an offside.
Gary, I think somebody who played the game the way you played it appreciates the way that Bob Nystrom plays the game.
You know, and it seems he gets so strong in the playoffs. He always plays his best hockey come playoff time. Very tough guy to play against. You know, you get the ice pack out after playing against him.
Who was the toughest that way for you? Who did you feel the bruises most from when it was all over?
I would say Gillies, when you bothered him. Somebody just mentioned my wife.
Here's McElhargy. Cleared one, but Gillies intercepts, trying to set up Goring. Barber is there. Cleared in, however, by the Islanders. Then Wilson for Philadelphia, shooting it off the boards. It'll go all the way down the ice. Lorimer and Barber race after it. They roll. Barber got to it first, so it's onside to Clark. Clark trying to drop one back. Broken up, and here comes Pogba. Upended by Clark, who'll get a penalty. And now play called, and Bobby Clark will go off for tripping. Tonight's Stanley Cup playoff game is coming to you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Man, and also the best penalty killer on the Flyers.
They have Bridgman and Barber out with DuPont and Daly on defense, and DuPont cleared it down the ice. Islanders have Pearson and Pogba as point men, Trottier, Bossy, and Bourne up front. Each team has scored a power play goal in this 2-2 game. Here is Pogba firing it in. Bourne digs in after it. He's number 14. Fell. Richmond cleared it, but right onto Bossy's stick. Bossy, back of the net to Trottier, back to Bossy. Shoots, and he shot it wide by 2 or 3 feet. Bounces all the way back into the Islander end of the rink. And Stepan Pearson, number 7, has it for New York. 1:21 left in Clark's penalty. Pearson. To Bourne, back to Pearson. Now on right wing to Bossy, broken up by Hill and cleared away. And Pearson has to go back for New York. 1:06 left in Clark's penalty. 2-2 the score. Islanders on the power play as they work it to Trottier on left wing. To Bossy. Mike Bossy fires it around on the boards. Here's Trottier. Lets it go to Pearson. To Dennis Potvin. Back to Pearson. Pearson, a drive. Peters kicked it up. Rebound. Trottier centered it. Peters stopped that and dives out and held on.
Good play by Peters right there as he got the stick on the centering pass from Trottier. Very alert play on the part of the Flyers goalie. Clark in the box has 41 seconds left to serve.
Well, that's something that becomes very important in the goaltender's equipment, how he uses that stick. Here he's nudging Illies a little bit. Now watch him just throw that stick out to cause the puck from reaching Bossy, and you know that if it would have reached Bossy, where it would have been.
41 seconds left in Bobby Clark's penalty. 16:08 left in regulation time. 2-2 the score. Flyers Watson trying to fire it out and succeeds. It goes all the way into the Islander zone. Smith, back of the net, passes to Potvin. Less than 30 seconds left in the penalty. Smith was upended as he tried to get back into the goal crease. Here's Potvin trying to carry into the Philadelphia zone. Drops it to Pearson. Over to Gillies, but intercepted by McLeish and cleared away. 12 seconds left in Clark's penalty. There's Butch Goring, number 21 for the Islanders. Lost it. Lynchman has a breakaway. Sprawling save by Smith to Rob Lynchman. Clark comes back on. There's Lynchman again. Potvin breaks it up. Now to Nystrom. Leans at full strength down. Nystrom knocked down, and Clark takes over for Philadelphia. To Busnick. Back to Clark. 3-on-2 player break, and Clark had it roll off his stick. He hustles to the corner. Centered one. No one could get a stick on it, and Nystrom for the Islanders. Shoots it to center. McElhargy feeding it back in. Here's Paul Holmgren. Morrow skates him off. Holmgren again. Trying to center one. Knocked away, and here's Merrick for New York, number 11. Wayne Merrick trying to work it to Tonelli. Peters squared it. Here's Tonelli. Steals to Nystrom. Shoots! Peters gets a piece of that, and it ricocheted off to the corner. Now Tonelli in the slot. Peters a stick save to Rob Tonelli. And back comes Prop, number 26, the Flyer rookie, to Ben Wilson. Into Prop, but intercepted by Lane. Number 24, Gord Lane for New York. And the play goes offside at the Philadelphia blue line. This is Stanley Cup 80 from the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
When he put that young fellow in.
Their coaches are geniuses when they play that way.
Peters with a great save just before the Linsman's chance at the other end. Peters made a great one on Nystrom. Here's Daly for Philadelphia. 2-2 of the score. Dan Kelly, Dick Urban, and Gary Dornhofer in Philadelphia. Game 1 of a best-of-7 Stanley Cup final. Lorimer in the Islander zone. Quickly scoops one to center. Daly going back for Philadelphia. It goes across the red line, and as he touches it, icing called against the Islanders at a face-off back deep in the New York zone.
Well, Daly, always a tower of strength out there. Very tough to beat to the outside because of that reach. And what makes him so effective is clearing the front of the net. You know, we talked about it. Don Cherry talked about it, the importance of that guy out there. Daly's job is to get that man out of there so the goaltender can see the puck coming.
At 6'5", he's a tower, period. The younger fans here. Come on, honey, hang on.
Don't go to sleep yet.
Hang on.
14:01 left in regulation time. Islanders 2 and the Flyers 2. Clark, Barber, and Leach up front for Philadelphia.
Dan, usually on these face-off, the Flyers will always switch wings. You'll have Leach coming in from the left side, playing the left wing over there, and if he gets it, he's got a good angle for that shot on net, because Clark will try to draw it to him.
Here's Clark on the face-off against Bourne. They get it back to Busnick. Shoots! Blasted it just wide out in front, and poked wide by Barber. Bourne now clearing one for Sutter that goes all the way down the ice. Busnick back to get it for Philadelphia. Now to Clark. To Barber, to Leach. Leach with a long shot. Smith clears that around on the boards to Dwayne Sutter. Barber checked him. Barber tied up by Lorimer and knocked down. the Islanders. Henning pokes it away from Barber, but Bridgman gets it. Bridgman jamming in on the boards and forces the face-off as he tied up Lorimer.
Well, one of the things that make good face-off men good, Gary, they don't always do the same thing.
Well, like I said, what Clark is going to do now is draw to the right point man. Isn't that what
He fooled you. There he goes.
Fooled everybody. You know, everybody thought the play would go to Leach. Busniak, let's fly. Almost caught the top corner, but just missed the net.
That's a good play by Clark.
This time it will be Trottier on the face-off against Al Hill. Hill taking the face-off, and the Islanders get it. Here's Bourne on left wing, couldn't get it out. Daly held it in. His shot wide of the mark. And Bossy for the Islanders flips one to center. Knocked down by Daly. Flips a long one in. Langevin for the Islanders up the middle to Trottier. Where did Daly held it in? And it's Langevin back to get it again for New York to Pearsall. Now to Trottier to Bossy. Over to Trottier. Moose DuPont poked it away. Langevin for the Islanders. Moves into Bossy. In the clear. Peters makes the save as the puck trickled off Bossy's stick into the goal crease.
Boy, you're the New York Islanders. You have a breakaway chance. Who do you want to have it? Mike Bossy. Didn't get a shot away, Gary, really.
Now the puck just slipped off his stick. There he is, home free. It looked like he wanted to make the shift in there. Once he got in there too close, he couldn't really shoot it, and then just lost possession of it. And the sign tells it all.
Boy, I don't know. Michael, I can remember watching him on your showdown where he could pick those corners from out in front. That's twice now he's been in at that end. First period, went to the backhand, didn't get a shot away. Another look at this last one when it rolls to the goalie, but not a real shot.
Well, you know, the chances are there. The Islanders are just not capitalizing. They've had some excellent opportunities, but just can't pull the trigger.
Merrick and Linsman this time on a face-off to the right of the Flyer goal. 12:47 left in regulation time. New York Islanders 2, Philadelphia Flyers 2. Merrick gets the draw to Nystrom. Got it to the corner, but Busnick for Philadelphia cleared it to Watson. Watson checked on the play by Tonelli. Now Morrow at the right point. Flipping it in. Tonelli into Merrick. Merrick out in front and checked by Holmgren as he went to shoot, and the puck deflects up over the glass. Good play by Holmgren.
Now even Merrick, you know, he made the man take him there. He went right out in front of that unchallenged. A good defensive play by Holmgren, taking the man and deflecting in the crowd.
Dick, you were talking earlier about the chance by Bossy. Who better would you to have a breakaway? What's the worst year he's ever had? 50-some goals?
51 this year.
Here's Linsman on a face-off with Merrick. Gets it to Morrow. Flips one to the corner. Busnick for the Flyers. Being forechecked by Nystrom, but Watson comes back to help out. To Propp. Number 26, Brian Propp to Linsman. He has to circle back. Kenny Linsman to Propp. Fires it around on the boards, and back goes Lane for the Islanders. Lord Lane over to Tonelli. Tonelli being checked from behind by Linsman, dumps it into the Flyer zone. Propp has it. Propp checked by Nystrom. Now Merrick centers to Tonelli. He got a piece of it. Peters cleared it. Nystrom centers one. And Holmgren carries away for Philadelphia. Number 17, Paul Holmgren to Linsman. His shot goes off a stick and up over the glass and out of play. We're down to 11:37 left in regulation time. With the score, the New York Islanders 2, the Philadelphia Flyers 2. This is Stanley Cup 80. 11:37 left in regulation time. Here's Clark against Goring. Clark gets the draw to Ben Wilson, a shot, and that hit Gillies and bounced to center ice. McElhargy cleared it in. Lorimer for the Islanders. Passing to Sutter. To Potvin. On right wing for Sutter, who cleared along with it. Wilson shoots one around on the boards. It comes to Lorimer at the point. In behind the net to Gillies. Gillies checked by Wilson. Now Barber for Philadelphia. Trying to set up Leach. Potvin is there to intercept. Here's Goring losing it to Leach. Leach shoots one, and that went wide of the net. Goring for the Islanders. to number 9, Clark Gillies. Cleared one in. Here is Sutter digging in after it. Sidesteps a check from DuPont, but Kelly takes it away for Philadelphia. Kelly lost it to Goring. Clark is there to cover up. To Daly. Daly over on the wing for Leach. Dennis Putbat checked him. Now Kelly. Tied up by Goring, and Goring is able to get it out of the zone. Kelly, with persistence, keeps the puck and gets it back in for Philadelphia. Lorimer to Sutter. Now to Moore. Bob Moore, number 14, with a long shot that Peters turns aside. McLeish for Holmgren. Cleared back of the net. Digging back there, the Islanders center. Bossy tried to center one instead of shooting as Howard set him up. Islanders hold it in. Howard couldn't get a shot. Now Persson at center for New York. He's number 7. To Langevin. He drilled it into the Flyer zone. Kelly shot it right back up. 2-2 the score, and the teams are playing very cautiously. DuPont for Philadelphia. Out on the right wing boards, the Flyers work it now. Holmgren drops it to DuPont. To Daly. Daly flipping a long one in. Cleared aside by Smith. Now Howard for New York, number 8. He cleared one to center. Daly has to go back after it. Bob Daly shoots one to center. Here's McLeish trying to get loose. McLeish into Goren's on right wing. Persson tying up that player, and he's going to get a penalty as Persson for holding. Stanley Cup 80 will continue in just a moment. The score, 9-11 left in the third period. Clark gets the face-off, but Goring comes up with the puck. Here's Butch Goring into the Philadelphia zone. Barber breaks it up. Goring still has it. Lost it, and here's Barber, number 7 for the Flyers, and Goring broke it up again. Now cleared by the Islanders. Hill, number 15 for Philadelphia. Back to Wilson. Then Wilson to Clark. Clark, Hill, and Leach the forward line for Philadelphia, and Henning is there for New York to break it up. Now Wilson to Barber. Wilson and Barber are the point men as Barber dumps one in. Lane back for the Islanders. Cleared it. Leach knocked it down. Leach fakes the shot. Gives it to Clark. Bobby Clark on this Flyer power play. To Leach. To Clark. Wilson shoots. Blocked by Henning. Wilson held it in. Gets it to the corner. But Lane for New York is there and picks an opening and fired it down the ice. A minute left in the penalty. Here's Barber. 2-2 the score. Flyers on the power play. Barber feeds it into Holmgren. Paul Holmgren with a chance. Over on the wing. They center it. Shoots. Big save by Smith on Lindstrom. Now Barber's shot wide of the net. Holmgren behind the goal. To Lindstrom. Back to Ben Wilson. A drive. He blasted it wide. Held in by Barber. Shooting, and Lorimer blocked that one. Wilson was tipped and Goring cleared it away. 21 seconds left in Persson's penalty. Here's Wilson to Propp. Propp poke check by Lorimer. Now Trottier dropped it back for Lorimer. Islanders still short-handed. Lorimer being forechecked by Propp. And Goritz. Now Linsman back to the net. Linsman looking to make a play to Propp. To Goring. Shot it wide. Now centered to Daly. Over to Linsman. Smith the save. Persson is back on. And Billy Smith stands tall in the Islander goal crease.
Well, what pressure by the Flyers there against the Islanders, and they had them running around, diving in loose pucks, but they had the Islanders out of position. Some good scoring chances. Billy Smith, what an exhibition. That's the man you want to set up right on the side there. Kenny Linsman shot it as soon as it reached his stick. Oh boy.
Well, no power play goal, but that's the best power play really that we've seen tonight, and it was Billy Smith who kept the Flyers at bay, and it's 2-2, 7:05 remaining regulation time.
That was a combination of the Flyers really moving that puck around and the Islanders running around, not keeping the box.
Big face-off coming up to the left of the Islander goal. Rick McLeish against Wayne Merrick. McLeish wins the faceoff, drops it, a shot right on by Gorance, and Smith another save on Gorance, and then the puck is squared up over the glass. Billy Smith with another jam of the save, that time on Gorance.
7 shots this period for the Flyers. Well, that's almost a play by McLeish here. He'll bang the puck against the boards and then look for that slot man. Everybody seems to skate away from that area. Smith had to be very sharp.
Now Holmgren comes over the boards to replace Gorance on right wing. It will be McLeish, Kelly, and Holmgren for Philadelphia. Merrick on the face-off. McLeish gets the draw. Here's Watson, a shot and a pad save by Smith. Pearson trying to clear it. Holmgren to McLeish. He scores! Rick McLeish from a bad angle.
Well, the forgotten man, Rick McLeish, has scored the go-ahead goal, and how he ever tucked that one in, we thought maybe there was a hole in the net.
Funny, so many good, clean-cut looking chances, and it ends up right here.
Good work by Holmgren, something he does so well. There it is. Smith wasn't against the post, and it went off the inside of his pad and right in.
3-2 Flyers, 6:50 left, third period. Another look at it. Look at the angle McLeish is at. Off the pad of Smith into the net. Holmgren assisting at 13-10.
McLeish's 7th goal of the playoffs, and it gives the Flyers a 3-2 lead. Now McLeish with a breakaway. McLeish shoots. Smith stops him on a breakaway with a glove save. Live from the Spectrum in Philadelphia, the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Islander goal. Bridgman will take the face-off against Trottier. Trottier wins the draw cleanly, and Lane for the Islanders, who have fallen behind 3-2. Lane to Morrow. Morrow, number 6, comes to center and flips one in. Daly for the Flyers to Gorance. Trottier into forecheck, but here's Bridgman trying to set uphill. Morrow at center. Shoots it back in for New York, and it's offside at the Philadelphia blue line.
That last pass coming out of the Flyers zone would have been a 2-on-1 had it clicked. So, Gary, the Islanders, with the breakaway by McLeish, they're maybe starting to move up a little bit. They've got to look for the equalizer.
Well, that'll change the strategy by the Islanders now. They can't sit back. They have to make things happen. You notice that the Islander defense that time stayed in a little longer. Normally he would have backed out. He tried to stay in and perhaps intercept the pass, but on a one-on-one, who would you like to have? You know, you mentioned Bossy for the Islanders. How about McLeish for the Flyers? Very rarely will he try and pull the goaltender. The way he shoots it, always try to shoot it. Smith, he was right there, made the easy save.
Islanders are trailing 3-2. 6 minutes left in regulation time. Here's Trottier. Flips it in. The veteran Moose DuPont for Philadelphia, being forechecked by Howard, but gets it to Kelly. Bob Kelly cleared it to center, and Lane has it for New York. Shot it ahead to Trottier. It goes all the way into the Flyers zone. Peters sets it up for Daly. Daly to Hill. Hill couldn't get it out. Howard almost stole it. Kelly is there for Philadelphia. Howard held it in to Trottier. Trottier to Howard. Howard trying to get it to Bossy. Broken up by Daly, and now Kelly comes up with it, but play called and a penalty coming up against Philadelphia. This Stanley Cup playoff game is coming to you from the Spectrum in Philadelphia.
Left in regulation time, the Flyers, Al Hill, call for hooking on Gary Howard, a rather critical moment as the Flyers have a 1-goal lead.
Islanders with 12 power play goals in the playoffs, one of which they scored tonight, have the man advantage. Here's Dennis Potvin, shoots! Stick save by Peters. Nystrom to Goring, back of the net. Goring trying to drop it back in and all the way to center. Potvin, number 5, passing to Gillies. Over on the wing for Potvin, Clark knocks it down. Clark, check, Gillies dropping it to Pearson. Now to Goring. Puts Goring to Nystrom. Nystrom trying to drop it back. Does to Gillies. Now Potvin, tied up by Clark on the play. Here's Jimmy Watson. Nystrom to Dennis Potvin. Into Goring. Goring to Persson. To Dennis Potvin. To Goring. Islanders on the power play. A minute 8 left in Hill's penalty. Goring to Potvin. To Persson. Persson a drive, and Peters went to his knees and stopped Stepan Persson's shot from the point.
The Flyers kept the Islanders on the outside, Gary.
Well, that's what the box does. You try to force the shot from the outside. It looks like Peters may be hurt on that last shot. He's crouched. We'll have a look at it again and see if we can find out where Peters was injured. We're following him. You notice Peters moving to where the puck is, following the play. There's the box that the Flyers set up.
Look at that Busniak in front with Gillies.
And then Peters gives him a little tap. May have been just above the pad there when he went into that crouch. There is an open area where it isn't protected.
Well, he has played tonight in a style that doesn't give any indication that this is the first Stanley Cup final appearance for a 22-year-old goaltender in his first year in the National Hockey League. He has played very coolly, very well. Right now his team is killing a penalty. Hill in the box with 1:02 left in the penalty. 4:27 remaining in regulation time. And the Flyers on the goal by Rick McLeish here in this third period have a 3-2 lead. Jacques Plante looking on. He and Bernie Perrott are special assignment coaches for the Flyers, helping the goaltenders, of course.
Here's Bridgman on the faceoff. Just under a minute left in the Flyer penalty to Hill as the Flyers cleared away. Persson has to go back for it. 4:15 left in regulation time. 3-2 Philadelphia. Here's Barber almost stealing it. Now Trottier to Persson. To Bossy, number 22. Mike Bossy working it in. Here's Trottier being tied up by Barber. Daly back to get it for Philadelphia. He's pinned against the boards. Here's Bossy. DuPont gives him a rough ride. Back to Dennis Potvin to Persson. Barber, one of the penalty killers, says no stick. Here's Potvin to Bossy. Mike Bossy trying to center one. Persson scores! Stepan Persson on a beautiful setup, and it's tied 3-3.
Okay, with 17 seconds left in the power play, and without a stick, that was a key. Barber lost his stick, Gary.
Yes, he did, but what a play that Mike Bossy makes there. You know, he's got a view of the whole situation, what's happening, and Pearson, from his position, moves in. There's the way Peters looks at it. Now watch to the left-hand side of your screen. Pearson will move in. Bossy will get a hold of it. Watch him going into that area, right along the boards. Yes, can't get over there in time, but a perfect pass, perfect shot. Well executed.
So it's a 3-3 tie, 16-18. The time of the goal, Pearson from the left side, Bossy and Denny Potvin assisting, 3:42 remaining regulation time, and it's a tie.
And it was a power play goal by the Islanders that tied it up. Hill was in the penalty box. Here's Busnick for Philadelphia in his own zone. Trying to clear it. Merrick knocked it down. Now Pinelli and Busnick fight for it. Holmgren, number 17 for Philadelphia. At center ice to Prop. Prop gets around Morrow, then Morrow hooked it away from him. Prop back to the net, trying to center one. Here's Busnick pitching in from the point to hold it in. Islanders break out. Here's a 3-on-2 Islander break as Merrick feeds Tinelli. Tinelli dropping it back, but Busnick, who had been caught up ice, gets back in a hurry to break it up. Busnick, number 28, to Linsman. Linsman tries to center. He did, and Prop took a whack at it, and it went wide. Islanders, Nystrom, number 23, to Lane. Ward Lane trying to go around Daly. Now tries to center to Nystrom. Nystrom fell, but centered it. DuPont calmly cleared it away. Now Daly to Barber. 2.5 minutes left in regulation time as Barber cleared it in. Lane and Leach battle for it and hold it back to the Islander goal for a faceoff.
Gentlemen, are we ready for overtime? How about that for a first start?
We have tremendous possibilities right now.
Unless there's a penalty between now and the end of regulation time. There you see how long they have to go. Power plays, Gary, a big part of this hockey game tonight.
2 for the Islanders.
That's right.
1 for the Flyers.
Half the goals.
Face-off will be in the Islander zone. Bobby Clark against Butch Goring. It's to the left of the New York goal. 2:25 left in regulation time. Clark and Goring get ready. Puck drop. Goring gets the draw, and Potvin flipped it in front of his own goal to Trottier, who's out as a winger, trying to set up Goring. Now Barber takes over. Trottier giving it to Goring. Goring to Dennis Potvin. Over to Lorimer. Ahead to Sutter, now clearing it in. And he cleared it up over the glass and out of play.
Gary, there's always a lot of talk about strategy and overtime, but right here with 2 minutes and 4 left, it's almost like sudden death through to the end of regulation time. What about the strategy at this point of a hockey game? Tie game.
I think that if you have the opportunity to go, you certainly have to go and take that chance. But for a defense, I think it's important that if you're not 100% sure of getting that puck when you're in the offensive zone, you pull out. You don't want to give that team that 3-on-1 break. You just can't wait for something to happen. I think you really have to go and make things happen.
Flyers get the face-off, and here's Watson to Busnick. He fires one around on the boards into the Islander zone. Just under 2 minutes left in the third period. 3-3 the score as the Flyers dig into forecheck and jam up the boards. Trying to break it up. Now here's McLeish's shot, and Smith a stick save. Lorimer over on the left wing boards to Gillies. He's checked by Busnick, but now Potvin fired one to center. Goring racing after it. Watson beats him to it. Watson to center ice to Hill on the 2-line offside. Faceoff will be just inside the Philadelphia zone.
Well, Rick McLeish, maybe at this moment he is thinking back to his breakaway, which came just seconds after he scored the third Philadelphia goal. He did not score on the breakaway. Subsequently, the Islanders tied the game, and there you see the situation on the clock.
Well, you know, both teams are very similar in their style, as we've seen tonight, and when you get down to it, you have to do your fundamentals. You know, play those effectively, and that usually will determine what's going to happen here tonight.
A couple of grinding physical teams who say the name of their game is forechecking. The Flyers and the Islanders, and it's tied 3-3 as Daly clears one to center. Here's Propp with 1:17 left in regulation time, dumping it in. Bossy for New York back to get it. He's knocked down. Flyers get it to Daly. Daly at the right point. Shoots. Linsman deflected it, and Smith calmly cleared it away. Here's Bourne to Bossy. To Bourne. A minute left in the third period. Bourne. Checked by Daly from behind. And the Flyers get it to center. Here's Holmgren. And Dennis Potvin came diving out to break it up. Now Potvin flips it into the Philadelphia zone. Back is DuPont. 45 seconds left in regulation time. 3-3 the score. DuPont shooting one in. Lorimer is back for New York. Now to Tonelli. John Tonelli to Merrick. Merrick on left wing. Trying to go around Busnick. Fired one in front of the net. Clark for the Flyers breaks it up to Barber. He's checked by Tonelli. Tonelli to Nystrom. Now stolen by Watson to Clark. 17 seconds left in regulation time. Watson's shot is wide. Busnick closes in from the point. Now Potvin with 10 seconds left. Flips it up the middle. Down into the Philadelphia zone. Busnick racing back to get it. And as he touches it, icing call with 2 seconds left. And the faceoff will be in the Islander zone.
A bit of hustle on the part of Mike Busnick. You never know. 2 seconds left. Face-off in Islander territory. It has happened, Dan Kelly. It's a game in Montreal many years ago.
The Montreal Canadiens do it.
Guy Lapointe put on the speed, I can recall. It was against Toronto. Touched it. Gaines at the goalie out. They dropped the puck, and I believe it was Pete Mahovlich who scored. And there were only 2 or 3 seconds left when that face-off took place. Now,
I saw the Canadiens do it to the St. Louis Blues one night, too, and Doug Jarvis was a rookie. Scotty Bowman sent him off the bench, wins the face-off, boom, it's in the net.
Well, that's what the Flyers would like to be able to do right now. Boom, put it in the net. Do you pull the goaltender?
How to climb the coach.
Well, Peters came out of the net, sort of cruised out almost halfway the blue line, looking over, wondering.
Only 2 seconds left. Clark will take the face-off against Trocek. They'll try and get it to McLeish or Leach. 3-3 the score. 2 seconds left in regulation time. Islanders get the face-off, and Potvin cleared it away, and we will have sudden death overtime. Shots on goal in the third period. Each team had 11. And in the 60 minutes we've played so far, the Islanders have outshot the Flyers 35-32. And a 3-3 hockey game as we wait for sudden death overtime.
In that third period, McLeish's goal gave the Flyers a 3-2 lead at 13-10, and then with Hill in the penalty box, Pearson on the power play for New York at 16-18. So they go into overtime in Game 1 in this Stanley Cup final round here at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Now, let's go down to our studios. Here is Dave Hodge.
The Islanders. Some great moments in overtime have come in the past, and let's look at some of them.
The Stanley Cup playoffs, the climax to hockey's year. For players and fans alike, it is the most drama-filled time of all. And within the framework of Stanley Cup competition, the most exciting moments come in sudden death overtime. This is Bill Cook, a longtime star with the New York Rangers, who scored the cup-winning overtime goal against Toronto in 1933, as Foster Hewitt called the game on the radio.
Into the corner, the Leafs back of their own net. They're 2 men short. The Rangers, Bill Cook scores. Battered old Stanley Cup goes back to Broadway.
In 1936, the Detroit Red Wings and the Montreal Maroons played what still ranks as hockey's longest overtime game. Mud Bruneteau scored the goal, which gave Detroit a 1-0 victory. The victim was Maroon goaltender Lorne Chabot. At the other end of the ice, Detroit goalie Norm Smith was shutting out the Maroons. The game lasted until 16:30 of the 6th overtime period. 1940, the last time the New York Rangers won the Stanley Cup. In the deciding game in Toronto, the cup-winning goal was scored in overtime by Brian Hextall, seen here after the game with Ranger coach Frank Boucher. 1944, Toe Blake was captain of the Montreal Canadiens, the left winger on the famed punchline with Elmer Locke and Rocket Richard. The Canadiens defeated Chicago 4 straight in the final series. The cup-winning goal was scored by Blake in overtime. 1950, New York Ranger goaltender Charlie Rayner was a key figure in a New York-Detroit final series that was destined to last the full 7-game distance. And it was a series featuring the most dramatic ending possible, overtime in Game 7. Detroit won that 7th game, a cup-winning goal in overtime scored by Pete Babando. 1951, Turk Broda's last playoff year with the Toronto Maple Leafs. A 5-game Toronto-Montreal final, all 5 games decided in overtime, the Maple Leafs winning the Stanley Cup on Bill Barilko's goal. That winning goal was set up by Todd Sloan. 4 months later, Barilko lost his life in a plane crash. 1953, the Montreal Forum. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup as Elmer Locke scores the cup-clinching goal in overtime on Boston Bruin goaltender Sugar Jim Henry. It was the high point in a brilliant career for Locke, now a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. (1954), again overtime in Game 7 of the final series. The Detroit Red Wings, hockey's powerhouse in the mid-1950s, had the home ice against the Montreal Canadiens. Tony Leswick, Detroit's number 8, was more a nuisance as a defensive player than he was a scoring threat. Yet it was Leswick who received credit for the cup-winning goal as his shot caromed off Montreal defenseman Doug Harvey into the net behind goaltender Jerry McNeil. That's the last time a 7th game in the final series was decided in overtime. In 1964, Toronto and Detroit in the final series, one which produced a long-remembered overtime goal. In Game 6, with his team facing elimination, Toronto's Bob Bond scored a game-winning overtime goal, and after that game, it was discovered Bond had played with a broken bone in one of his legs. 2 nights later, the Maple Leafs clinched the Stanley Cup in Toronto.
1966, a year when a surprise appeared in the offing after the Detroit Red Wings defeated the Canadiens in Montreal in the first 2 games of the final round. But Montreal came back to win the next 4 with Henri Richard scoring the cup-winning goal on this play in overtime in Game 6 at the Detroit Olympia. Detroit goaltender Roger Crozier was that year's Conn Smythe Trophy winner. 1969. By now, hockey's so-called expansion teams had joined the NHL. Montreal won the cup that year by beating St. Louis in the finals, but the most dramatic series was the Canadiens-Boston Bruins semifinal. Game 6 played in Boston, and it ended with this dramatic play. Jean Beliveau scoring the series-winning goal in the second overtime period. The only overtime goal scored by Beliveau in his brilliant career. 10 days later, the Canadiens clinched the cup in St. Louis on a winning goal scored by John Ferguson in the 3rd period of regulation time. 1970, and again the Boston Garden is the scene of a long-remembered overtime goal. Game 4 of the final, the Bruins needing a victory to clinch their first Stanley Cup in 19 years. The game went into overtime, and in the first minute, the game's premier player of that era, Bobby Orr, scored the cup-winning goal, sparking an incredible outpouring of emotion in Boston. (1977), again the Boston Garden, and this time the Bruins are the victims. In Game 4 of the final series, the Montreal Canadiens clinched the Stanley Cup with a 4-game sweep on this play. Early in the first overtime period, Guy Lafleur setting up Jacques Demers for the overtime cup-winning score. 1979, the #1 moment of that playoff year for the Canadiens, who were to win the Cup for a 4th straight time. Game 7, Montreal and Boston in the semifinals, and Montreal's Yvon Lambert scores the series-winning goal. Some great moments from hockey's most thrilling combination, the Stanley Cup and overtime.
A lot of people watching that who said, I remember that. I picked Bobby Orr, Jacques Demers, whoever to score the winning goal, and we have fun trying to pick overtime goal scorers.
There's Pat behind the bench, and away we go, Mr. Kelly.
Sudden death overtime, and the Islanders cleared immediately to the flyer line. Here's DuPont carrying back and dumping it into the New York zone. Dennis Potvin. DeBoer, Daly knocked it away from him into the corner for Goritz. Potvin ties him up, and Trottier clears to Bourne. Bourne scoops one to center. Back goes DuPont for Philadelphia. Bossy into forecheck on DuPont, who cleared it around to Daly. Bourne comes in into the corner for Bossy. Bossy back of the net trying to center one. Here's Trottier behind the goal. Centered it. DuPont cleared it away. Trottier again, and again DuPont intercepts. Flyers Hill to Goritz at center ice. He's checked by Potvin, and Lorimer has it for New York. Lorimer clearing it to the flyer line. DuPont knocked it down. Here's Hill with a long shot, and Smith cleared it on the left wing boards to Clark Gillies. Gillies, number 9, by himself into the flyer zone. Tied up by Busnick, and back to help out in the play is Goritz, who just held the puck against the boards. And the faceoff will be in the Philadelphia zone. 3 overtime wins for the Islanders this year, all on the road. Gary, how about penalties in overtime? We had 3 power play goals scored in this game so far.
Non-existent, unless it's a good scoring chance and a player is hauled down, so you get away with a lot more. And I'm not to the point of being repetitious. We have mentioned this several times before, but it certainly isn't a factor unless it's a good scoring chance.
Here's Wayne Merrick against Linsman. Face off to the right of the Flyer goal. We're in sudden death overtime. Merrick gets the face off, but Busnick for the Flyers gets the puck, lost it out in front. Merrick a chance, and he had it bounce off his stick. Here's Linsman for Philadelphia. On right wing to Propp. Brian Propp is shot, and a stick save by Smith on the short side. Now Busnick tied up by Merrick. Holmgren for Philadelphia. Morrow jammed him in against the boards. And it's held there, and the face-off this time will be in the Islanders zone. Billy Smith seemed to lose sight of the puck when it went in behind the net off prop shot. He was slow getting across to the other side. And the Flyers almost had the short side at their disposal.
Well, a chance at both ends as we see Paul Holmgren, who has certainly come into his own. Bill Berge, who plays for the Philadelphia Eagles, said this guy is the best conditioned athlete he has ever seen. And does he work at it in the offseason? Constantly on a training program.
Already on the face-off, Islanders Morrow clearing it around on the boards for Bourne. Bourne, back of the Islander goal. Here's Bob Bourne leading a rush to center. In on right wing to Nystrom. He digs in after it. Peters cleared it away. Now Watson trying to get it out of there. Linsman and Nystrom fight for it. There's Trop for Philadelphia. Dropping one to Busnick. He scooped it into the Islander zone and Lane for New York. To Wayne Merrick, number 11. Merrick to Nystrom. Nystrom over to Tonelli. And then Linsman pokes it away for the Flyers. Headmanning it to Barber, but hold on. A penalty call by referee Andy Van Helleman. Well, Gary said it would have to be a good scoring chance. Watson, I think it is, who is going off this time. Tonelli had the scoring chance there.
I don't think there's much doubt about that one. Tonelli would have been home free, and Watson hauled him down. And you'll never get a better chance for the Islanders, and right at this present time, and especially since the Islanders have already scored 2 power play goals. They've got confidence now.
17:52 left in the first overtime period. Islanders in this 3-3 game with a power play. That's Watson in the penalty box. Holding is the call. Trottier, Bossy and Gillies up front. Potvin, Pearson on defense. Clark wins the faceoff in the Flyers zone. Over to Leach. Pearson held it in, but Daly blocked his shot and clears one away. Clark and Leach are the penalty killers. Smith out of the net. Round on the boards to Pearson. Stepan Pearson, who tied the game in regulation time for the Islanders. Works it over on right wing for Bossy. DuPont cleared it away. Now it is Pearson to Potvin. Number 5, Dennis Potvin, the Islander captain, giving it to Pearson. To Potvin. Beats one in on left wing for Bossy. Too far ahead for him. DuPont is there to clear one out. A minute 16 left in Watson's penalty. Smith for New York, leaving it for Pearson. Stepan Pearson. Checked by Daly. Here's Daly, then bumped by Pearson. Daly centers one. Backhanded it wide. Potvin for New York. To Bourne. Here's Bourne. Over on right wing for Bossy. Bossy dropping one back. Potvin couldn't get in position to hold it in. At center ice, Dennis Potvin to Trottier. Barber pokes it away. Now the Islanders, Potvin. Trying to work it into the zone to Bossy. There's Bourne, but the play is offside at the Flyer line. 34 seconds left in that man's penalty. He's Jimmy Watson, and some excellent penalty killing by Philadelphia.
Well, all Jimmy can do there is just sit back, hope and pray that the Islanders don't score, but they've just stopped skating. They're standing still when they're receiving the puck, and it's pretty tough to beat somebody when you're in that position. It's the Islanders. Everybody should go back in the whole zone, right in their own zone, and start from there fresh with everybody skating. They still got time to get one here. 34 seconds, plenty of time.
Leach and Clark are the penalty killers. Wilson and Busnick on defense. Islanders have Goring, Bourne, and Nystrom up front. Morrow and Potvin, the point man. 34 seconds still left in the penalty. Here's Clark and Goring on the faceoff. Outside the Flyer line. Clark gets the draw back into his own zone. Busnick for Philadelphia cleared it to Leach, who tipped it down the ice. Number 6 is Morrow. To number 21, Butch Goring, leaving it for Morrow. To Potvin. Dennis Potvin carries into the Flyer zone. Potvin over to Morrow at the other point. Fired it into Nystrom. Nystrom checked by Busnick. Now it comes loose to Tonelli. To Dennis Potvin. He scores! Dennis Potvin! And the Islanders in sudden death overtime win game one. Comes with 1 second left in the power play. Gary, that's something Denny Potvin does so well. That anticipation from the point, when to move in, when to take the chance. The timing was perfect right there.
Well, you watching this one. He was hollering at the man behind the net to get him the puck. Just watch, there's a concentrated attack going on here. Nystrom in the corner along with Wozniak. They kick at it, goes behind the net. Now watch Potvin in from his slot position, right from the point rather, move into the slot and gets that puck. Tremendous. But he was hollering for the puck. He wanted the puck.
4:07 the time of the goal. Back of the net, look now.
There you see Potvin cruising in. Now what makes it important too, as soon as it hit Potvin's stick, he doesn't waste any time. He shoots it right away. You notice Peters never even moved on it.
So the power play goals by the Islanders really paying off. Bossy in the first period, Persson.
Dennis Potvin scores twice, including the winning goal in overtime, and he also drew an assist. Star number 2, Paul Holmgren, who did his thing for the Flyers in his sort of game. And the third star, despite the fact he had a couple of weird goals scored against him, Billy Smith held the New York Islanders in there, making big saves, especially in the third period in breakaways by Ken Linsman and Rick McLeish. The Islanders have been fantastic on the road throughout these playoffs, and they continue to be that in taking game number 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. And they'll try for a 2-0 lead, with the Flyers aiming to get
The proceeding has been a special presentation of ICENET, the Islanders Championship Entertainment Network.